Marvel, starting with the super soldier serum. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126, Searching for the Hong Kong Temple. Qin Xiao went back to the real world. Although Gu Yi's analysis was well founded, he had to verify it in person to feel at ease. However, according to the situation, that the time between the two worlds was relatively static, it was very likely that Gu Yi's analysis was the truth. He went back to find Comrade Xiaoguo first. As a result, Xiaoguo laughed happily when he saw Qin Xiao. Brother, do you still remember the golden coffin last time? It's too troublesome to melt that thing. I wanted to find a rich man to sell it directly. Guess what? Xiaoguo's face was full of wrinkles when he smiled, like a chrysanthemum swaying in the wind. A big local tyrant in the Middle East took a fancy to it and said he wanted to buy it back and wait for his own use after 100 years. He paid 5 times the price of gold. 5 times. These stupid oil guys with a lot of money. I should make more of these things in the future to sell to these local old hats. As he spoke, Xiaoguo took out a bank card and handed it to Qin Xiao. I'm a wandering man. Last time, I helped Brother Qin with something. The work was easy, and I made a lot of money. Afterwards, Brother Qin gave me such a big piece of gold. To be honest, just treat it as a tip for doing things for the boss. I don't mind if it's too much, and I don't mind if it's too little. It's up to you to be generous. But when you encounter such a thing, the extra money is brought by you. Even if you give me a pile of gold, you can't sell it at this price. The gold is your tip. I took it, and I will return the extra money to you. This made Qin Xiao look at him with a new look. But he was more curious. Is that Middle Eastern tycoon so stupid? If he likes it, he can just make a piece himself. No, brother Xi, is that tycoon really that easy to fool? He raised the price himself when he saw the coffin. Xiaoguo touched his chin and laughed. That's not the case. I wanted to make it look old and antique to brag to others. Who knows? Haha. Anyway, I didn't mean to cheat him. Qin Xiao laughed dumbly. In that case, this money is also earned by brother Xi himself. You can keep it for yourself. Xiaoguo couldn't figure out where the Middle Eastern tycoon came from. Middle Eastern tycoons all over the world are either the illegitimate sons of a tribal chief in the UAE or one of the many unpopular princes in a small country. Many people conceal their life stories very deeply, and Xiaoguo couldn't find out in depth. Qin Xiao had no way to deal with this because he didn't have so many intelligence channels here. After repeatedly declining from Xiaoguo, Qin Xiao finally accepted half of the money at Xiaoguo's insistence. It was a pleasant surprise. But the purpose of coming back this time was not this. Qin Xiao originally thought that being in Marvel was just a transition, and he would eventually come back to live here. But now it seems that things are not that simple, and Qin Xiao has no intention of developing any power here. Instead, he packed a few clothes and went to Hong Kong with a backpack. Qin Xiao wanted to confirm some things this time. In fact, Qin Xiao had checked it when he was in the Magic City. There are no so-called superheroes in this world. The time now is 2020. There is no epidemic in the real world, and there is no snapping incident in the Marvel timeline. If this is really a timeline of Marvel time, then Conqueror Kang must have set up a relatively calm and stable timeline for the closed loop of the timeline. Although Hong Kong is not big, it has a large population and building density. Qin Xiao wandered around for 3 days before he visited this city, which is known as the financial center of Asia. According to Gu Yi, all timelines follow a set route to develop, but if this world is the other end of the time loop, in principle, it is also a time branch of the Marvel world. Although it is possible that under the operation of Conqueror Kang, there are no so-called superheroes and many major events here, but the template will not change. There is no reason for him to remake all the maps in order to delete a few people. If this timeline started hundreds or even thousands of years ago and was allowed to develop freely, it would be impossible for the names and development histories of so many countries to be almost exactly the same. Moreover, Qin Xiao has already found a country called Wakanda on the internet, a small country in Africa that almost no one knows about. It's just that the king is not any of the new or old Black Panthers in his previous life. But since he is here, Qin Xiao is still cautious and looks for more traces of Marvel. The Hong Kong temple is one of them, because Gu Yi said that the Hong Kong temple was not built by the people of Kamataj, but by the locals themselves. It was originally an antique shop and was later bought by Gu Yi, and the interior was renovated. Gu Yi felt that the window was very consistent with the temperament of Kamataj, so the construction of the London temple and the New York temple was based on the appearance of the Hong Kong temple, especially the large round window. Unfortunately, Qin Xiao did not find the so-called Hong Kong temple. Yes, it's a pity. Qin Xiao already has a deep affection for the Marvel world. He doesn't know, as the tasks are slowly completed, if he encounters an ultimate task in the end. If he completes it, will the system leave him? If the system is gone, can he still stay in that world? But if this is a closed loop, it will be different. In the later stage, whether it is the time variance administration or the development of the quantum field, traveling between the various branch universes of Marvel is no longer a problem. Therefore, Qin Xiao still hopes from the bottom of his heart that this is the other end of the Marvel closed loop. Moreover, it should be like this. How can you travel through time and space in a chain? Unless there are more worlds, this is reasonable as a basic world. Qin Xiao actually knows that this should be the other side of the closed loop. But if he doesn't find something to prove it, he always feels uneasy. Depressed, he found a tea restaurant. This is the only place Qin Xiao felt comforted in Hong Kong. Although the food in many tea restaurants in Hong Kong is simple, the taste is really good. It was almost 10:30 at night, and the tea restaurant was about to close. Several old neighbors came to the store to chat with the boss and boasted about some of the past. Qin Xiao finished his meal bit by bit, and when he got up to leave after paying the bill, the photo album in the old neighbor's hand caught his eye. It was a yellowed old photo. Judging from the buildings and the people's attire, this is probably Hong Kong in the 1960s and 1970s. A dozen people are standing in front of a 3-story building on the corner taking pictures. The windows of the building are the iconic round windows of the temple. Sorry, I'm late today. My child has something to do. I've been busy all day. I just got home and quickly wrote a chapter. I'll take my child to a bath later. I'll catch up with you after the child falls asleep. Chapter 127, The Eternal Hidden in the Timeline. The old neighbor who was chatting in the tea restaurant told Qin Xiao that the small building belonged to a British baron named Iggers. Before Hong Kong's return, their family was doing trade business here, and the building in the photo used to belong to them. The old neighbor's parents used to work for this Baron Iggers. This photo comes from his parents. After Hong Kong's return, Iggers' family returned to the UK, and the building has been idle here. Until a few years ago, a huge typhoon landed and directly lifted the top of the upper floor of the building. The Iggers family also contacted the old neighbor's father, who was still alive. They gave them a sum of money and commissioned them to repair the building. This is why the round glass window above is missing. Qin Xiao said that he particularly liked the window above and pretended to be indifferent and asked about the location of the building. After listening to the old man telling a lot of stories in the past, he went out to take a look at the building. Although it can be basically confirmed that Gu Yi's speculation is correct, but since he is here, isn't it? This is a building at a Y-shaped intersection. It is a standard fat triangle single family house with a narrow front and wide back. It can be seen that the layout of the windows and the exterior wall of the entire building are completely different from those in the photo. The wooden double door has an iron gate outside, and there are several thumb-thick iron chains hanging randomly outside, with a palm-sized lock hanging on it. Adhering to the principle of coming here to see if there is anything to discover, Qin Xiao reached out and twisted it gently and directly twisted the lock off the chain. Pushing open the wooden door inside and stepping in, there is no musty smell as imagined, because no one has lived there for too long. The ground is also clean. Reaching out and touching the wall, it is clean and dust free. This is obviously different from what the old neighbor said. According to him, Iggers' family is not short of money at all. This building has been idle and there is no plan to sell or rent it out. So why does it look so clean here? There is no answer just by thinking. Qin Xiao raised his leg and stepped onto the stairs to the second floor. The stairs were the kind of old ones that went up a row of large stairs and turned into two sides at the corner. Qin Xiao had just reached the corner and hadn't had time to turn. The wooden handrail in his hand actually undulated like waves, and then Qin Xiao saw that the wooden handrail turned into a huge metal sword in front of his eyes. A sound of breaking through the air was heard, and it swept towards Qin Xiao horizontally. Qin Xiao subconsciously lowered his head and dodged the sweep of the long sword. He took advantage of the situation and lightly jumped behind him and went down 5 or 6 steps in a row. He just used the corner of the wall to block the attack of the handrail sword. What the hell is this? Qin Xiao just flashed this thought in his mind, and the connection between the plane of the steps and the wall also undulated like waves. Then the steps and the wall separated, and the wooden steps turned into a huge iron hammer again, smashing directly towards Qin Xiao. This time there was no way to avoid it. Qin Xiao crossed his hands, protected his head, and took the hammer. Bang! Under the violent collision, Qin Xiao also used the force to jump directly out of the range of the steps. Playing tricks. Qin Xiao watched the stairs slowly return to normal from 2 or 3 meters away. Since there are people, come out and have a chat, otherwise I will tear down your entire building, Qin Xiao said, looking at the corner of the stairs. He had already traveled to Marvel, and there were all kinds of messy people. Qin Xiao was not scared away by these two moves. But changing matter is indeed very powerful. Qin Xiao even doubted at this moment whether there were X-Men in his timeline, the so-called superpowers. But Qin Xiao quickly gave up this idea, because as his voice fell, a figure slowly appeared at the corner. A woman with black hair, black eyes and yellow skin, who looked no different from a normal Chinese. But on her hands, there was a kind of geometric figure composed of a faint golden light, a circle with several arc-shaped lines. Qin Xiao's first reaction was that it was a magician from Kamatage. But he immediately rejected it, because the magic energy of Kamatage was more like orange-red, and it looked more violent. The energy in the woman's hand was more like an extremely pure golden color, and it looked very calm. If you didn't pay attention, it would be difficult to find that it was some kind of energy. This energy and pattern looked very familiar to Qin Xiao, and he always felt as if he had seen it somewhere. Suddenly, Qin Xiao remembered, and 3 words popped up in his mind: the Eternal Clan. Compared with Qin Xiao's surprise, the woman waved her hand without saying a word. The golden energy in her hand directly wrapped around the 2 chairs next to her and waved at Qin Xiao, and the 2 chairs together turned into 2 watermelon-sized hammers. Driven by the golden energy, it was like 2 meteor hammers whistling towards Qin Xiao fiercely. Qin Xiao dodged the attack of the 2 hammers with a flash. Just as he took a step forward, he was met with at least 5 or 6 long swords of different shapes slashing at him. 5 or 6 long swords almost covered all of Qin Xiao's body. Qin Xiao drew out the Tang sword almost instantly. With the blessing of the mastery of intermediate weapons, Qin Xiao danced a series of knife flowers with one hand. In the sound of metal collisions that kept ringing, the Tang sword knocked away the long swords controlled by the woman with great accuracy. Qin Xiao couldn't even stop 5 or 6 long swords for a second. But Qin Xiao had just knocked away these long swords and took a step forward. This time, more than 10 long swords directly surrounded Qin Xiao from top to bottom and left to right. It was a bit unrealistic to rely entirely on the Tang sword to block it, so Qin Xiao simply used the Tang sword to sweep across. He knocked away the long swords in front of him that were in the way. He completely ignored the long swords flying from other directions. He rushed directly towards the woman. It was definitely not Qin Xiao's style to just take a beating. As soon as he took a step, Qin Xiao opened his mouth and sprayed a hot column of fire directly at the woman. This ability finally made the woman who had always been calm look a little surprised. Chapter 128 The Terrifying Power of the Eternals. The energy in his hand controlled the matter around him. This time, he actually turned the wood of the stairs into a stream of icy cold water that directly hit Qin Xiao's fire column. Water and fire are incompatible. The water and the fire column cancel each other out in midair, and a huge amount of water vapor filled the space between the two. The fire attack of Qin Xiao was offset, and the woman didn't come back to her senses in the huge amount of water vapor in front of her. A sound of breaking through the air sounded, and Qin Xiao's fist broke a channel in the water vapor and hit the woman's head directly. Qin Xiao reserved 50% to 60% of his strength for this punch. He was also afraid that he would kill the person with one punch. There were many things that he hadn't asked clearly. It was a pity that when Qin Xiao traveled through time, the movie of the Eternals had not been released yet. Otherwise, Qin Xiao would not be so arrogant. Qin Xiao's punch, which seemed to be enough to stop a large truck, was directly grasped in the palm of the woman's hand. Except for the sound of pop, this punch did not have any effect. The woman's straight arm did not show any signs of being under much force. It seemed that this punch was insignificant to her. How is this possible? Qin Xiao, who had been crushing his current enemies in terms of combat power since crossing to Marvel, met an opponent in terms of strength for the first time. With a roar of disbelief, Qin Xiao quickly retracted his fist. He gathered strength and clenched his fist again. This time, he punched the woman with 100% strength. The woman did not stop him, but tilted her head, as if she was thinking about something. Just when Qin Xiao's fist was about to hit her, the woman stretched out her hand and punched Qin Xiao directly. With this punch, Qin Xiao felt as if he was hit by a locomotive. His whole arm was numb, and it was obvious that he had been completely crushed in terms of strength. But the woman did not stop, and her fist, which was a circle smaller than Qin Xiao's, directly pushed Qin Xiao's entire arm back. Then she changed her fist into a palm and printed it on Qin Xiao's chest. Qin Xiao flew into the air and flew backwards directly towards the door. But before he flew out of the house, the door behind him and some furniture next to him turned into a thick metal plate again. The huge impact caused Qin Xiao's back to directly hit the metal plate behind him, leaving a deep dent. Qin Xiao only felt a shock in his internal organs. Obviously, he had suffered a little internal injury. This injury was nothing to Qin Xiao, but the strength of the Eternal in front of him was too terrifying. Qin Xiao fell to the ground, and the energy in the woman's hand seemed to be spreading like a vine, extending towards Qin Xiao. It directly wrapped around Qin Xiao's body and tied him tightly for at least 7 or 8 times. This energy was extremely tenacious. Qin Xiao tried to break free, but with his current strength, he couldn't break free at all. Just as the woman was walking towards Qin Xiao, the voice of the system suddenly sounded wildly in Qin Xiao's mind. Why crazy? Because it said this. Warning. Warning. The Eternal in front of you has the strength of a father in the sky. It is recommended that the host leave immediately. Wait until you are stronger before challenging me. Can you just wait until I die next time? Qin Xiao said angrily in his mind. I originally thought that this world didn't have any high-end combat power, but it turns out that this is the copy of the top combat power. Qin Xiao suddenly remembered the analysis of the Eternals by many netizens before he crossed over. Some people say that Thanos is also a member of the Eternals. Qin Xiao doesn't know whether this is true or not, but in terms of strength, the woman in front of him is definitely at the level of Thanos. Qin Xiao's anger did not have any effect on the system at all. Host, please stay calm. I'm just a system, not the combat power analysis glasses in Dragon Ball, nor the perspective plugin in the game. I don't have the function of directly seeing through the opponent's strength. Qin Xiao was so angry that he wanted to curse. But now is not the time to quarrel with the system. He shouted directly in his mind. Didn't you see I'm tied up? I can't leave. Tell me something useful. Stop talking about other things. Please pay attention to the wording. This system will warn the host the moment it finds the opponent's fighting power. It's the host who keeps talking. Otherwise, this system would have given a solution long ago. The following is a solution given by this system for emergency situations. Since the host has not stayed in this world for 15 days this time, the system will deduct 200 points from the host for emergency crossing. If you agree, please say 1. If you disagree, the host can end this conversation. Fuck you. 1. Qin Xiao really wanted to curse, but the woman had already walked in front of him. Qin Xiao could only shout 1 frantically in his mind. Emergency plan activated. Congratulations to the host. This is a wise choice. As the saying goes, it's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. The host's inability to beat her is only temporary. With the help of this system, I believe the host will be able to return soon and take revenge. The system was long-winded, and finally before the woman squatted down and stretched out her hand to Qin Xiao turned into a little light and disappeared directly in front of her. Qin Xiao went directly back to New York from Hong Kong. It seemed that he had traveled halfway around the world, but in fact, he had traveled across the whole world. He took a deep breath and recalled his previous life's knowledge of the Eternals. Unlike the comic book setting, the Eternals in the movie universe were not created by the Celestials using their own DNA to transform the humans on Earth. Instead, they were a group of civilization guides who came directly from alien planets to ancient Earth. They helped the ancient Earthlings invent writing, master farming techniques, and so on. They played the roles of prophets, guides, gods, and so on. They have eternal life and have been hiding in human society, almost never interfering with the development of mankind. There is also a saying that the Eternals actually have their own enemies. The Celestials created two races at the beginning, and this group of Eternals who came to Earth may just be to avoid the enemy. Helping humans is a matter of convenience and never interfering with human development. It may be that their enemies came to Earth later and they were afraid of being exposed. But no matter what they are for, or what conspiracy they have in hiding in that timeline, or what agreement they have reached with the Time Mutation Administration, it is not important for Qin Xiao now. The important thing is to quickly experience the plot, earn points, and become stronger and stronger, so that he will have a chance to avenge the punch just now. Thus, the real secrets hidden in the two timelines are slowly revealed. After being taught a lesson by Drekhov's ruthlessness last time, Qin Xiao was severely taught a lesson by the Eternals in terms of strength this time. Don't think that you are a time traveler, or that you are great, just because you have a system. Whether it is your character or your strength, you need to grow slowly. In the end, you can laugh at the universe in this Marvel world full of various magical powers. These two chapters are counted as the 27th, and there is still one chapter left. It will be made up on the 28th or 29th, depending on the situation. The scheduled chapter on the morning of the 28th is gone. Go to bed first and update it when you get up tomorrow. Try to pay off the debt with 5 chapters. It is certain that the protagonist cannot beat the Eternals now. Don't say that I abuse the protagonist. It's just a small failure. This place will definitely be recovered. As I said, an ordinary person, even if he has a system, needs a little transformation after traveling through time. If he is directly invincible after traveling through time, it will be too easy to collapse later. No more. Go to bed and apologize again for not updating in time yesterday. Try to make up after sleeping. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129 Qin Xiao's armor is released. When Tony was renovating the skybase, he directly occupied the former Drekhov's office as his own laboratory. He also broke through the metal shells around it and used a lot of glass. The reason was that he could see the scenery outside from all sides, which would help him to get inspiration when he was inventing. Qin Xiao didn't know to what extent this could inspire Tony's inspiration. Anyway, so far, the only new invention that could be called a new invention was the undamaged pants used by Banner to transform. Today, it was finally Qin Xiao's turn. He put on the stockings made of unknown material handed over by Banner. There was also a pair of long gloves that were also pulled to the elbows. Both the socks and gloves had several wires. Tony stood at the operating table and tapped the keyboard quickly. Get ready, I'll count to 3. Qin, you will output the flame with all your strength in the position, covered by your hands and feet. Do you understand? Okay. Qin Xiao nodded honestly, imitating Tony's takeoff, with his feet together and his palms facing down. 3, 2, 1. As Tony counted down, Qin Xiao controlled the flames in his body to spray out violently, covering his arms and calves. No one knew what button Tony hit. The next moment, all of Qin Xiao's flames disappeared, absorbed by the gloves and socks on his body. All the energy was collected and rushed to the palms and soles of his feet. Qin Xiao instantly felt a reaction force on his palms and soles of his feet gradually increasing. The whole person felt a little light. Tony, why do I feel that the force is too weak and I can't fly? Qin Xiao said, a little depressed. That's because your flames are too scattered. To be more precise, your ability as a fire god is too rubbish, at least for now, but you are lucky, because you met me, and of course Banner, who accounted for at least 21% of the credit, at most 25%. Get ready, hold on. On the screen in front of Tony, Qin Xiao's flame data quickly passed in front of him, including temperature, reaction force generated by the jet, energy conversion rate of the thruster, etc. Okay. Now relax your whole body. I'll count to 3. Keep this position. Believe me, you will soon be able to experience the feeling of flying. Qin Xiao nodded excitedly. Then he saw Tony quickly tapping the keyboard a few times and pressing the enter key heavily. Whoosh! A strong driving force suddenly surged from the palms and soles of his feet, and Qin Xiao instantly turned into a deflated balloon. With a whoosh, he drew a beautiful arc in the air and directly smashed through the door of the laboratory and flew out. Jarvis, remember to remind me to open the door next time. It's very troublesome to repair. It's unknown what material the socks and gloves Tony provided to Qin Xiao were made of, but Tony said that this was a disposable item, mainly for collecting the flame data on Qin Xiao. Strive to maximize Qin Xiao's use of the least effort to turn into the greatest driving force. So, the second time, the thruster suddenly burst into a burst of flames and burned out instantly, but Qin Xiao's head hit the refrigerator next to him. The third time, Qin Xiao smashed the toilet tank with his head, and he almost washed his head in the toilet. Tony laughed so hard that he fell backwards, and even the honest Banner had a teasing smile on his face. Seeing Qin Xiao turned his head and looked at him, Banner quickly pretended to lower his head and work. Qin Xiao suspected that Tony did it on purpose, but he had no evidence, especially when he was about to have a flying armor. Qin Xiao chose to give in. Finally, after Qin Xiao plunged his head into the compartment of the laboratory ceiling and hung his neck on it, Tony took several photos. Tony finally asked Jarvis to create a finished product. Qin Xiao's armor does not have as many lines and energy systems as Tony's. In addition to a large number of energy converters and several thrusters inside, there is no other messy stuff. So Qin Xiao's armor is lighter and thinner than the existing Mark series. In view of Qin Xiao's own strong defense and the characteristics of the combat suit on his body, Tony almost gave up any function of the armor, except energy conversion and flight. A thin layer of gold titanium alloy. There is no bloated feeling of Tony's armor at all. It looks more like the armor of Spider-Man or Black Panther. The black full body armor, in accordance with Tony's usual style of gold, is inlaid with a golden border line at all the corners. There are 2 golden small seal characters Qin on both shoulders of the armor, which adds a little bit of retro feeling to the armor. In addition to the lack of a helmet, the back has 4 more retractable dorsal wings than the Mark series. In addition to the forearms and calves, if Qin Xiao's whole body bursts into flames, the 4 dorsal wings on the back will automatically pop out, and the flames on other parts of the body will be transformed into the power of these 4 thrusters. The mobility of this armor is greatly increased. Before building this armor, Tony was studying the automatic tracking, identification and wearing functions of the Mark 7 armor. However, given that the internal structure of Tony's armor is too complicated, it is still under research, which is a bargain for Qin Xiao. Put on 2 bracelets. Qin Xiao only needs to take out the armor and open his arms, and the armor will automatically open and automatically put on Qin Xiao's body according to the position of the 2 bracelets. In order to realize this function, Tony also put an arc reactor on this suit of armor. It serves as a backup energy source for the suit and an energy source for identifying and tracking Qin Xiao. It is very thoughtful. However, Qin Xiao has space to store things, so this function should not be used much. It is usually used to switch the suit on and off when wearing it. The maximum speed is 2 Mach. If it is switched to a reactor, the speed should be able to reach 4 Mach in extreme cases. Qin, this is the fastest suit of armor I have ever made. Tony's voice came from the headset. Qin Xiao circled countless times in the sky and then reluctantly landed back to the base. Your current flame is far from reaching the limit of the thruster and energy conversion. With the upgrade of your flame, the speed of the armor can be further improved. Tony checked all the parameters and said to Qin Xiao, "This chapter is a supplement to yesterday's. There are 4 more chapters in the evening." Chapter 130, The Strange Movement of the Cosmic Cube. World Security Council. This organization, which was established under the leadership of several Western powers, has indeed maintained local peace in some areas to a certain extent. But it is still a bond of regional interest groups. This is why in the movie, Nick Fury followed Captain America's advice. While eliminating Hydra, he also terminated SHIELD and handed over SHIELD's huge intelligence network headed by Agent Hill to the Avengers. Even if SHIELD was reorganized in the later period, it was almost completely separated from the political factors on Earth. Of course, these are all later stories, but since Nick Fury took over SHIELD, no matter how big the security problems are, the members of the World Security Council who hold high positions in various countries have always held meetings remotely, except this time. This time, the 6 permanent members and 12 deputies of the World Security Council are all present. In addition to Alexander Pierce, the president and the director of SHIELD, a full 20 people who are almost at the peak of power rarely gather together for a meeting. And the content of the meeting is not to fight drug dealers or terrorists on a global scale. It is aimed at Qin Xiao's public killing in France. Of course, this is just a fuse. The core content is to target the rise of the Avengers. Whether it is to recruit the Red House, an intelligence organization with great potential, or to fight terrorists across borders many times. These are against the hidden interests of certain countries and politicians. We must speed up the process of developing weapons using the cosmic cube. The security and stability of the world depends on everyone present, and the countries behind it, not Captain America and his group of so-called heroes in strange costumes. I have a document here, which records in detail, that in the past 6 months, this so-called Avengers, an illegal civilian organization, has repeatedly ignored sovereign borders, and went to any country, to fight their so-called terrorists. Especially the Chinese man named Qin Xiao. Not only did he use his superpowers, to threaten the entire Senate in public, he also killed people in public at the auction of the Grand Palais in Paris. For God's sake, I'm almost annoyed to death by those Japanese dwarfs recently. Several members were excited and talked endlessly about the Avengers, especially how lawless Qin Xiao was. Only Nick Fury sat aside and watched all this coldly. Although he did not agree with some of Qin Xiao's behaviors, he despised the so-called committee members who were working to maintain world security. Their dirty hearts only cared about the public support rate and their own interests and power. The more they discussed, the more excited they became. They absolutely could not tolerate the emergence of an uncontrolled high-end military organization with its own intelligence network and funding sources. Finally, everyone looked at Nick Fury. 1 month. Director Nick Fury, we will give you another month. The weapons developed using the cosmic cube must reach mass production and can be equipped with the special forces of the countries present first. Everyone, I understand your feelings, but forgive me for being blunt. Whether it is Qin Xiao, Captain Rogers, or Tony Stark, their behavior is indeed beyond the line, but to some extent, they are indeed working to maintain world peace, aren't they? In fact, the development of cosmic cube weapons has achieved certain results, but Nick Fury does not want to hand over these technologies to these people. Director Fury, I remind you to be aware of your identity. They are essentially a group of criminals who trample on the law. Their actions are not supported by any country. They are disrupting the world. I hope you can remember this firmly. Of course, don't forget our time limit, 1 month. A committee member looked at Nick Fury deeply. Everyone present was a smart person. How could an organization like SHIELD not have its own people? For example, during the New York War, they were able to bypass Nick Fury and let the people below launch a nuclear bomb on Manhattan. It was known that he must have a way to counter Nick Fury. California, the former Pegasus Project Research Institute, is now a secret base under SHIELD. Dr. Eric Shavig, who was recruited into SHIELD by Nick Fury, is testing various data around something that looks like a large arc reactor. And in the middle of that arc reactor is the square cosmic cube. This shows that S.H.I.E.L.'s development of the cosmic cube is still at the stage of absorbing energy, and the weapons made in this way will be slightly more powerful than traditional gunpowder weapons. Ammunition has become pure energy consumption, and the power of individual weapons can be adjusted automatically. It is indeed much more advanced, but due to the material and output power of the weapon itself, the power has not improved in real time. Nick Fury was under a lot of pressure at the meeting today, so the first thing he said when he came in was, "Drive Shavig, we need to enter the third stage of development as soon as possible. There is no time. The officials above are anxious to use it to create weapons that can fight Iron Man." Dr. Eric Shavig was slightly stunned when he heard this. "I must remind you that the energy contained in this thing is beyond your imagination. Overdevelopment without confidence may cause some kind of disaster. Then increase your confidence, Doctor. If you don't hurry up, believe me, those stupid bastards will definitely form a team to develop weapons by themselves, and then it will be a real disaster." Nick Fury actually has his own plans, not to mention the Captain Marvel and Alien incident in 1995. Even when Thor came last time, whether it was the stupid big guy with the hammer or the magic puppet that could breathe fire, they all had the power to destroy the city. As an Earthling, they would not put their hope of protecting themselves on the asshole Asgard. Nick Fury agreed with Howard Stark's words. Peace is in the hands of the person with the biggest stick. Earth must have its own big stick to deter those advanced alien civilizations in the universe. Nick Fury's words made Eric Shavig fall into deep thought. After a while, he slowly spoke. "I can increase the development efforts, but it must be gradual. We can increase the risk, but at least it must be within a controllable range, right?" Nick Fury nodded without comment. Eric Shavig continued to bury his head in his work. Who knew that just at the beginning, a shrill alarm sounded from various instruments. The energy value of cosmic magic is constantly rising. "Doctor, is this what you call gradual?" Although Nick Fury is not a scientist, he still understands the values on the computer screen. The energy fluctuation of cosmic magic has risen by almost 20 times compared to before. This is not a step-by-step approach. "I haven't started yet." Shavig looked up blankly. "No matter how late it is, there are still 3 chapters today. Chapter 131, Captain America's Memories. At first, Nick Fury thought that the cube was operating on its own, and he thought it was a good thing. Maybe he could use it to fully control the energy in the universe. But Dr. Shavig's next sentence made him shudder. "This is not the cube operating on its own. Someone opened this thing on the other side. To be precise, this is probably the real way to use the cosmic cube, opening a wormhole over a very long distance." The opening of a wormhole over a very long distance is a new term. Nick Fury used it to make new energy weapons. Previously, the Skrulls planned to use this thing to make a light-speed engine. How should this thing be used, or what will be transmitted from the other side? Nick Fury has seen aliens, and this place is remote, so he is not afraid of accidentally hurting civilians. So he issued an order for the entire base combat personnel to be on high alert, and at the same time, recalled Hawkeye, who was on a mission outside. In the original movie, Hawkeye had been watching Dr. Shavig at the base while he was studying the Rubik's Cube and also preventing him from doing anything. But didn't Natasha run away with Qin Xiao here? Hawkeye's burden naturally became heavier. But it was strange that after the cosmic cube had an energy burst just now, it became quiet again not long after, as if it had just sneezed casually. "Sir, the energy fluctuations of the cosmic cube have completely dropped to normal levels. Do you want to order a reduction in the alert level?" From the beginning of the abnormal fluctuations to now, nearly 3 hours have passed, and the cosmic cube still has no reaction, so Agent Hill suggested to Nick Fury. "No, there is always an unusual calm before the storm. Except for the combatants and several main persons in charge of the cosmic cube project, everyone else has left the base. I have a feeling that this matter is not that simple." Nick Fury's one eye flashed with a light of worry. "Sir, in this case, why don't you call Agent Romanov back to help? I mean, Qin Xiao and Stark." Nick Fury stretched out his hand to stop Agent Hill from speaking. "They have nothing to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. now. If it's not necessary, let's solve it ourselves." An hour and a half later, Agent Hill watched in the parking lot as Loki, who controlled Hawkeye, Dr. Shavig, and another S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, left with the cosmic cube. He anxiously asked Nick Fury for his opinion into the headset. "Sir, I couldn't stop them. The cosmic cube was taken away by them. What should we do next? The base will explode soon. Evacuate first, and then notify Natasha and the others. Manhattan, New York. In this commercial area, that is almost the most expensive in the world, a brand new building has recently sprung up. This building, which covers a large area, is divided into two parts, the upper and lower parts. Below are the various laboratories and offices of Stark Industries in New York. Above is a huge aerial platform, and then there is a huge private space with a total of 7 floors. People on Wall Street jokingly said that Tony Stark built a small aerial manor on the company's building. In the middle of the two parts, outside the huge terrace, there are 5 huge letter-light boxes of Stark, which spell out Tony's last name, Stark. As Tony connected the cable on the seabed, this building became the only building in the world with self-sufficient renewable energy. It also indicates that Stark Industries is at the forefront of the world in the field of renewable energy. With Stark's character, he certainly won't miss this opportunity to show off. Qin Xiao, Natasha, Captain America, Banner, Rhodes, of course. There is Pepper, plus dozens of widows who stayed at the base. Tony held an internal party in this sky manor. As the letter light box outside the terrace lit up, Tony came whizzing in wearing armor and slowly walked in on the terrace. The circular mechanical arm on the terrace followed Tony's footsteps. Just when he walked in, his armor was completely removed. I bet Tony must have secretly rehearsed the process of unloading the armor many times. Qin Xiao said to everyone in a low voice, "What are you mumbling about? Shouldn't you give me some applause? From now on, there will be a great name lighting up the night sky in New York. You should be proud to have a friend like me." Tony, who opened his arms, did not receive the applause he imagined, and could only sit down next to Pepper. He muttered softly, "You are definitely jealous of me. Especially you, Qin." Tony pointed at Qin Xiao with contempt in his eyes. "You are jealous of me. You are jealous that my name shines in the night sky of Manhattan, while your name is only on the wanted list of the Paris Police Department." Qin Xiao was too lazy to argue with Tony, who was being arrogant at the moment, and gave him an international gesture with his backhand. At this time, Natasha's cell phone rang. Qin Xiao made way for Natasha to go out to answer the phone, but found that the captain was sitting alone in the corner drinking with a lonely face. "Hey, Captain. You seem to be worried. Today is a party. You should be happy. Maybe you can go out and meet some new friends." Qin Xiao raised his glass to the captain and said, "Those letters." The captain pointed to the half-exposed huge light box outside the window. "The first time I saw the name Stark was in the newspaper. It was the night before Bucky went to the front. He took me to an expo called Future World. That's where I met your father, Howard Stark, for the first time. At that time, he was full of vigor and vitality, standing on the stage to introduce to the world what the future world would look like. At that time, I was weak and sickly. I wanted to join the army but no one wanted me. Who would have thought that one day I would fight side by side with Howard Stark?" It was also on that night that I met Dr. Abraham Erskine, the inventor of the super soldier serum, at the expo. That night changed my whole life. The captain's eyes were full of memories. Now that I think about it, most of what Howard showed me has now been realized, exactly as he envisioned. For this world, it is the rapid development of technology after the war. For me, I just fainted after the plane crashed, and when I woke up, all these people were gone. There was only a future world that Howard described to me, a strange world. It seems that the letter Stark evoked a lot of memories for the captain. He continued to speak to everyone dejectedly. "Bucky, my teammates, even the enemies, are all gone. Howard is gone too. His son looks like my uncle." The captain spread his hands helplessly and then drank the whole glass of whiskey in his hand. Tony also drank the wine in the glass depressedly. If it weren't for the fact that the captain was too lonely at this time, he would have wanted to directly put the glass on Captain America's head. There are 2 more chapters. Chapter 132, New York War Prelude. The story of Captain America is played all year round in museums in New York. But this time, Captain America told the stories that happened during World War II. Everyone listened attentively. Hydra, the Howling Commandos, and the weapons transformed by the Cosmic Cube. And after the final battle with the Red Skull, Captain America chose to crash the plane and missed the date. As a woman, Pepper was of course the most emotional and wiped away the tears from her eyes. She said to Captain America, "You should go and see Agent Carter. I heard that she is still alive, but she is not in good health. I think she must want to see you in her lifetime." I know. Captain America nodded repeatedly. "I just don't know how to face her, but I decided tonight that I will go to see her tomorrow, to avoid regretting it in the future." The right decision. Pepper picked up the wine glass and gently clinked it with Captain America. "Sorry, Captain, I think your date plan must be postponed. Something big happened in S.H.I.E.L.D. about the Cosmic Cube." Natasha, who answered the phone, said to everyone with a serious face. Not long after Natasha hung up the phone, Coulson personally came to deliver some information about the Cosmic Cube. These things are top secret, and he dared not send them over the internet. The most important thing is that he also needs to meet Qin Xiao and others to confirm the attitude of the Avengers. Qin Xiao and others' attitudes are definitely fine, especially Qin Xiao. Apart from anything else, these are 2 Infinity Stones. What's more, the Mind Stone on Loki's scepter will be related to the 2 super combat forces of the Avengers in the future. Scarlet Witch and Vision. Of course, if it is properly controlled, Quicksilver can also be preserved. A remote galaxy in the universe, a desolate abandoned planetary belt without the light of stars. There are broken planets and satellites everywhere here. Some are missing a large piece, and some are broken into land masses of different sizes floating in the universe. Loki, who is far away on Earth, flashed a light from the gem on the scepter, and his spirit was directly projected on this desolate place. An elder of the Chitauri saw Loki's spiritual projection, and said a little anxiously, "Our Chitauri army is ready to go. Don't worry." Loki didn't want to weaken the power of Asgard in front of this race that he thought was very inferior. He transformed into an Asgardian armor and continued, "I will lead the Chitauri army to win this glorious war." Glorious war? Just relying on the group of ants on Earth? The Chitauri elder said disdainfully. Ants on Earth? Loki used to think so, but now, the figure of the Ancient One appeared in Loki's mind. If Thanos hadn't told him that the Supreme Sorcerer would never take action, he might have thought about this plan again and again. If your army is really invincible as you said, then the people on Earth are indeed just a group of ants. Loki responded lightly. "Are you questioning us? Questioning our Chitauri army? Or questioning Lord Thanos who gave you the scepter?" The Chitauri elder roared angrily. "He gave you a new mission. He gave you the scepter so that you can go from being an exiled poor wretch to having a chance to take back everything you lost." "Shut up. I'm the king of Asgard. I was just betrayed. Listen, this is all just a deal. I'll help you get the Cosmic Cube. You lend me your army to conquer the Earth." Loki's spirit subconsciously tapped the scepter and said, "Conquer the Earth?" The elder of the Chitauri laughed disdainfully again. "Your ambitions and ideals are really too naive. A small Earth. You should learn to look further. The Cosmic Cube can lead us to conquer the entire universe. Understand? Asgardians. If I remember correctly, the Cosmic Cube is not in your hands yet, right?" Loki smiled faintly. "Are you threatening me?" The elder of the Chitauri stretched out his ugly claws towards Loki. "I'm just reminding you to prepare your army and make sure to obey my command. I will definitely bring you the Cosmic Cube," Loki said hatefully. After closing the conversation with a spirit body, Loki cursed fiercely in his heart. Although he was a descendant of the Frost Giants, he always claimed to be an Asgardian and was very proud of it. He didn't expect that he would have to listen to a Chitauri threatening him in front of him. This made Loki, who was already sensitive, feel even more uncomfortable. He must conquer the Earth, then fight back to Asgard and take back his throne. Then find an opportunity to destroy the disgusting Chitauri race. He was secretly swearing in his heart. Dr. Shavag over there had already calculated what conditions and various elements were needed to completely activate the Cosmic Cube to form a fixed wormhole. The only thing we lack now is Yi. This kind of thing can be found in ordinary meteorites. Many countries have collected meteorites that fell from the sky. You need to find a way to get it. Dr. Shavag said to Hawkeye. Do you need me to do anything? After the conversation just now, Loki was more eager for victory in this war. As soon as he heard that an important element was missing, he stood up and asked Hawkeye, what Dr. Shavag can do, S.H.I.E.L.D. can also think of. If I want to get it smoothly, I need you to help me attract the attention of the S.H.I.E.L.D. people, and an eyeball. Hawkeye took out the bow and arrow and the equipment box and shook it. Stark Tower. Everyone studied the information here for a night. Of course, it was mainly Tony and Banner who studied it all night and began to use Dr. Banner's understanding of gamma rays to track the cosmic cube, whose main external energy is the emission of gamma rays. But Dr. Shavag and Hawkeye, who were controlled by Loki, were a top scientist and a top agent, so he had no shortage of technology and resources from the beginning. The gamma rays emitted by the cosmic cube were shielded tightly, and Dr. Banner's temporary search program did not find any trace of the cosmic cube. On the other hand, S.H.I.E.L.D. used most of the cameras in the world to compare faces, and found Loki's location instead. Germany, Stuttgart, Kings Road 28. There is a cocktail party going on here, and among the guests tonight is the owner of a private laboratory that Hawkeye needs, and in his laboratory is the one Dr. Shavag needs. There is one more chapter. Chapter 133, Beating the Naughty Child. Loki had already got the eyeball Hawkeye needed before they arrived, but in order to attract everyone's attention and buy some time for Dr. Shavag and Hawkeye, Loki, like in the movie, appeared in the gorgeous armor and cloak of Asgard, with a helmet with two huge bull horns. The scepter changed from a short staff to a gorgeous spear more than 1 person tall. Loki transformed into 3 clones, divided into 4 sides, to surround the people who fled from the cocktail party and the people on the street. Kneel down. The original body and the 3 clones simultaneously use the scepter to shoot lasers at the ground. While forcing those panicked people back, they watched them slowly kneel down at their feet. Loki suddenly felt like a real king at this moment. Perhaps what the elder of the Chitauri said was right. Loki's ideals were indeed very naive in his eyes. He enjoyed the vanity brought to him by this high position. At first, it was to delay time here, but now, looking at the dense crowds kneeling on the ground in front of him, Loki began to enjoy the process a little. Yes, that's right. Kneel down and abandon your unrealistic freedom and nobility. This is what you humans on Earth should be like. You need a strong man to conquer you and enslave you, so that you can finally get peace of mind. Loki's mouth slowly hung a smug smile. See, this is the slavery hidden deep in your heart. Give up resistance. Sorry, you only threatened us temporarily with weapons. No one will accept your so-called slavery. A gray-haired old man slowly stood up and said to Loki without avoiding his eyes, I take back what I said just now. There will always be some people who will make some meaningless resistance for freedom, and this may require a little blood to suppress. Loki looked at the old man in front of him and raised the scepter in his hand without mercy. A ray of light shot out, but faster than the light was a figure falling from the sky. Captain America arrived in time with a shield and took Loki's energy. Unlike the Avengers in the movie, who had just assembled and had no harmony at all, Qin Xiao's arrival not only allowed the team to assemble long in advance, but also allowed everyone to know each other much earlier than in the movie. Not only did they eliminate the hostility between each other, but they also had a tacit understanding that had been cultivated for quite some time. Captain America's beam bounced and hit Loki, knocking him to the ground. The people around him began to stand up and flee. Loki had just stood up when a sound of breaking air came from the air, and a golden red figure fell rapidly from mid-air. When he arrived in front of him, a laser cannon directly blasted Loki, who had just stood up, several meters away again. Damn it. Loki, who was enjoying the peak of his life, was a little angry. Half kneeling on the ground, supporting his body with the scepter, he had not had time to stand up completely. The sound of breaking air was heard again in the air, and Loki turned his head suddenly. Qin Xiao was already standing behind Loki, and he punched Loki's head with his right hand. The punch was originally aimed at the back of Loki's head, but when Loki turned around, Qin Xiao's punch hit Loki's left temple directly. Loki was given a 360-degree low-altitude spin before he fell heavily to the ground. Qin Xiao raised his right foot in armor and aimed at Loki's head again. With a clang, Loki's front face directly hit the ground and a crack appeared. If it weren't for the helmet on his head, Loki's nose would have been smashed into a small fountain. Your father told me that you are just an ignorant child. I think you deserve a beating. When Loki's head was slightly raised, Qin Xiao kicked him again without mercy. Odin and Frigga are thousands of years old, and they still have to worry about you every day, you damn bastard. Your brother is just a little stupid, but at least he knows what to do and what not to do. Look at you. Clang. People are thinking about the cosmic cube, and you are so stupid to come and serve as their vanguard. You don't even think about why they don't dare to come. You are really embarrassing Asgard. Bang. Qin Xiao cursed and kicked him. Poor Loki, he didn't even see Qin Xiao's face. After being knocked over for more than a minute, his head had already smashed a hole several dozen centimeters deep in the ground. Qin Xiao's current strength is that Loki has the power of Asgard and his own body of a frost giant. If it were any other race in the universe, even if their physical fitness was the same, they would be trampled to death by Qin Xiao's few blows. After stomping on Loki's head, Qin Xiao, who was still not satisfied, stared at the horns on Loki's helmet. Loki was facing the ground at this time, and his consciousness was a little fuzzy. The huge arc of the horns just happened to be on the ground, and there was a high bulge on the helmet. I don't know why, but seeing your horns makes me angry. Qin Xiao kicked again mercilessly, aiming at the root of the horns. With a sound of crack, Loki's armor was not a divine weapon. It was just a little more resilient than the steel on Earth, so it couldn't withstand Qin Xiao's kick. It broke directly from the root, and the helmet became a bare piece. Qin Xiao nodded with satisfaction, grabbed Loki's cloak, and lifted Loki up from the ground like a dead dog. Looking at the stunned Captain and Tony, Qin Xiao pointed at Loki's bruised face and said, "This is what Odin told me. If this kid doesn't listen, just beat him up." After saying that, he found that Loki's eyes were slowly focusing. "Asshole, your physical fitness is really good." Qin Xiao muttered, looked around, and didn't find anything convenient. He directly reached out and took the vibranium shield from the captain. With the shield in his left hand and Loki's head in his right hand, he hit the middle hard. Duang. Loki's neck loosened, and he completely lost consciousness. Things went too smoothly. On the plane back, Captain America and Tony were wondering why Loki appeared in Germany in such a high profile. Looking at Loki, who was still unconscious, Captain America couldn't help but complain that Qin Xiao was too heavy-handed and should have kept some consciousness to question him. Qin Xiao waved his hand nonchalantly. "It's okay. Asgardians wake up very quickly. When he wakes up, ask him carefully. If he dares not to say, 'Give me the shield first.'" However, before Loki woke up, the sky was already filled with lightning and thunder. Qin Xiao looked up and said to Natasha, who was flying the plane, "Open the cabin door. This guy's brother is here." Sure enough, as the cabin door slowly opened, Thor flew in with his hammer. He originally wanted to come and take Loki away directly, but he saw Qin Xiao when he entered the plane. Thor's momentum stagnated, and he turned to roar at Loki. "You actually came to Earth to snatch the cosmic cube, do you know? Oh my god. Are you Loki? Who beat my brother into this state? Finally, I paid off my debt. I had something to do during the day on the 28th, so I could only stay up late at night. These chapters don't count the ones for the 29th. There are still 4 chapters from the afternoon to the evening of the 29th. I wanted to write another chapter, but my eyes can't take it anymore. Anyway, I've paid off what I owe here. A new day starts during the day, yeah." Chapter 134, A conversation between two brothers. A filial son is born under the stick. This saying, passed down by the ancestors of China, can definitely be called the truth to a certain extent. Qin Xiao used to have a cousin who was 20 years older than him. When Qin Xiao just went to high school, her cousin's twin children were already 10 years old. These 2 children were spoiled by their family. So let's say you are watching TV and watching it intently. Come and change the channel for you. When you finally get into the new channel, he will change the channel for you. Hanging clothes. Go out to play and make a muddy ground. Come up and go straight to the clothes line. No matter if it is a towel or clothes. Come up and wipe it. Want to go out to play or buy toys? No matter if the adults have something to do, they will leave immediately. Otherwise they will smash the door and throw things at home. One summer vacation, Qin Xiao went to his grandmother's house in the countryside for the holiday, and it happened that his cousin came back to play with her children. Qin Xiao, who was irritated by the naughty children, pressed the two children to the ground and spanked them hard. Naughty, spanked. Don't give up and ask for things, spanked. If you dare to mess up when others are concentrating on something, you will be spanked. If you don't eat well, you will be spanked. In short, there is only one word, spanking. After 10 days, the two children were so sensible and polite in front of Qin Xiao. And Loki, in Qin Xiao's eyes, is just a naughty child. Although the harm is much greater, the essence is the same. If you speak in a sarcastic way, you will be kicked. If you don't cooperate well, you will be kicked again. Thor, who originally came down to settle accounts with Loki and planned to beat him up and bring him back to Asgard, couldn't stand it now. To be honest, he felt a little sorry for his younger brother. It was not easy to persuade Qin Xiao to give himself some time to persuade Loki. In order to prevent him from escaping, the two squatted on the deck of the sky carrier, braving the biting wind in the sky. The shy Thor and the bruised Loki next to him. The two brothers squatted under a fighter plane without saying a word. After a while, Thor sighed and spoke slowly. Alas, you'd better cooperate and tell me the whereabouts of the cosmic cube. If you keep going like this, you will be beaten to death by Qin Xiao, brother. Thor's mind flashed with what Odin said to him when Qin Xiao left Asgard last time. The Earth is about to usher in a troubled time in the future, and our contacts will become more and more frequent. If my two children cause you any trouble on Earth, beat them up as much as you want. If they dare to resist, you can call Heimdall at any time, and I will deal with them myself. When Odin said this, his face was smiling like a sunflower. Thor even had a moment of thinking that he was not Odin's biological child. Because before saying this, Odin had instructed that after Thor dealt with the affairs of the 9 realms, he would let him go to Earth to hang out with Qin Xiao. No matter how you look at it, this sentence seems to be said to himself, but he didn't expect Loki to fall into Qin Xiao's hands. So when Thor and Loki said this, it was so sincere and heartfelt, because in front of Qin Xiao, the two of them were on the same side. Shut up. What's wrong with you, my brother? How come you have become so cowardly after being on Earth for a while? I'm a god from Asgard. How can I let an Earth? Bang. With a loud noise, Loki, who was talking, was suddenly grabbed by the back of his head. He threw himself hard on the deck, and his whole head was stuck into the deck. The concrete on the deck was directly smashed into a hole the size of a human head by Loki's head. I said, don't call me an Asgardian god or an earthling all the time. Speak properly, otherwise I will hit your head and make a fart sound. Did you hear me? Qin Xiao, who appeared at some point, grabbed Loki's hair, lifted his head up, and asked viciously. Well, Loki nodded blankly with a look of despair. Qin Xiao was satisfied and reached out to gently pat the dust off Loki's face. That's right, have a good chat, I'll come to you later. Alas. Thor sighed again. Give up, my brother. Hand over the cosmic cube and come back to Asgard with me. I will plead for you in front of my father. Put away your hypocritical face, Thor. You make me sick. Facing Thor, the brother who has always been superior to him since childhood, Loki did not have a good face, even if he was beaten into a pig's head. After saying this, he looked around nervously and found that Qin Xiao was not in sight. Loki immediately spoke to Thor again fiercely. I'm the future king of Asgard. I don't want to go back with you and be a good boy. When I conquer the earth, I will lead people to Asgard. I will let everyone know that Asgard can only move towards greater glory under my rule. Thor put down his hammer and slapped his forehead helplessly. Don't even talk about conquering the earth. You can't even conquer Qin Xiao. How can you conquer the earth? I have an army. Loki stood up straight and said with his head held high, once my army arrives, I will sit on the throne and completely destroy everything on this damned earth, including that rude Qin Xiao. You are still daydreaming at this time, still fantasizing about conquering the earth and the 9 kingdoms. You will only create war and chaos. Even if you succeed, you will not be a qualified king. Wake up, Loki, come home with me. Your mother is still waiting for you in Asgard. Thor stood up and grabbed Loki's front, but after a few harsh words, he turned into a warm persuasion. When mentioning his mother, Loki's eyes showed a trace of tenderness, but it was soon replaced by fierceness. "That's your mother, Thor. I don't have a father or a mother. I'm just a frost giant. Odin adopted me to show his love and generosity. So put away your hypocritical face. Even if I'm beaten to death, I won't hand over the cosmic cube. Just wait for the arrival of the army." Loki looked at Thor with disdain and complacency in his eyes. He loved Thor's expression that he couldn't do anything to him. It's a pity that this proud look lasted less than a second. Qin Xiao appeared behind Loki again at some point. He said with a laugh that made Loki and Thor shudder, "You won't tell me the whereabouts of the cosmic cube, even if you kill me. Good job. I want to see if you really won't tell me, even if you kill me." Before he finished speaking, Qin Xiao had already leaned over and grabbed Loki's ankle with his right hand. He stood up and pulled hard, and Loki fell to the ground first. His head hit the ground again. Ouch. Before he could even finish his cry of pain, Qin Xiao had already grabbed his right foot, swung him up, turned him half a circle, and then slammed him to the ground. Bang. Bang 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 bang. Chapter 135 Plot changes. Speak or not? Speak or not? Speak or not? Qin Xiao imitated the Hulk in the movie and threw Loki to the ground from left to right. He threw him from left to right for less than 10 times. Then he heard a faint voice in the strong wind. "I will speak. I will speak. Qin." He said it. "He is willing to speak. Do you hear me?" Thor shouted loudly at the first time. He was not really afraid that Loki would be beaten to death. Whether it was Asgard or Frost Giant, their physique was different from that of ordinary people. No matter how serious the injury was, as long as it was not fatal, it would not take long to recover. The main thing was that he was afraid that if he continued to fight like this, Loki would be traumatized. He felt that he had a psychological trauma just by looking at it. Bang. Qin Xiao gave Loki a heavy blow to end it. Looking at Loki's state at this time, the two idioms explained it perfectly. His eyes were dull and his breath was weak. This was not caused by physical pain, but definitely mental torture. He came to the earth with great ambition, thinking of conquering the world by stepping on millions of people, but he didn't expect that the Chitauri army he had been thinking about would be beaten into a bear before it arrived. "Stop beating me. I'll tell you everything." Bore. Loki groaned and said this, and then he opened his mouth and spit out a bubble with blood. This time, the bear kid was completely convinced. What conquering the earth? What the throne of Asgard? Those are all external things. The earth is too terrible. Qin Xiao is too terrible. In Loki's imagination, he should be imprisoned very elegantly, and then use the Mind Scepter to directly break Banner's mental defense. Let this group of so-called superhumans or superheroes fight each other in their nests, and then he will leave in a chic manner, and finally lead the Chitauri army to complete this glorious battle. But Qin Xiao perfectly let Loki know what it means to be beaten by society. "Go ahead. Tell me, where is the cosmic cube?" Qin Xiao sat down next to Loki's head and asked calmly. "This, I don't know." "What?" Bang. It was still the oval conference table in the bridge of the sky carrier. Qin Xiao, Tony and others sat in a circle with Nick and Hill from S.H.I.E.L.D. Next to the table was Loki lying on the ground half dead, with Thor's hammer pressing on his chest. Just now Loki said that he didn't know where the cosmic cube was and was beaten up by Qin Xiao again. But this time, it seemed that what he said was true. With the combination of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s interrogation skills and Qin Xiao's fists, Loki even revealed the pranks he had done when he was a child. According to the understanding of human psychology by the senior agents present, he really didn't know where the cosmic cube was. There was a difference between this and the plot in the movie, because when controlling the destroyer to come to Earth to kill Thor, Loki had seen the actions of Ancient One and Qin Xiao. Although Thanos assured him that Ancient One would not act easily, Loki no longer had the Asgardian sense of superiority in the movie and the deep contempt for the Earthlings who were ants. So his plan also changed. After deciding to attract firepower in person in order to prevent accidents, Loki asked Hawkeye to reunite with Dr. Xavier immediately after obtaining the power and leave the original base and create an instrument that can activate the cosmic cube. After finding a place to open the portal and release the Chitauri army, this side must be empty inside, and then let Hawkeye take advantage of the chaos to rescue himself. Qin Xiao let out a long breath. After a long time, he went back to the starting point and finally had to wait for Dr. Banner's instrument to search for the signal of gamma rays. Moreover, Hawkeye is not Loki. Although he was controlled by Loki, his mind is still there. He doesn't want Loki to be so vain and like to be high and mighty. Agents are all Loki and pragmatic. Who knows if Hawkeye will take the cosmic cube to a corner to summon the Chitauri army and then counterattack. That would only cause more trouble. You know, in the movie, the battle started the moment the portal was opened. Although the battle was extremely exciting and intense, the portal only existed for more than 2 hours. Under the full delay and fighting of the Avengers, the Chitauri army was directly bombed by the nuclear warhead before it even left Manhattan. But if Hawkeye chooses to rush his troops in the corner first, the situation will inevitably become uncontrollable. Especially as Loki said, the Chitauri army relies on the information of the scepter to determine the command, and Hawkeye controlled by the scepter is also within this category. It doesn't matter, Dr. Banner's program is still running, and the spectrometers of all laboratories around the world are helping to search for gamma rays. As long as they activate the cosmic cube, they will definitely not be able to escape our surveillance. Qin Xiao clapped his hands and broke the silence. Now all we can do is wait and think about what to do with this guy. Qin Xiao pointed to Loki on the ground and said, "We should build a special underwater prison and lock this guy up at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean," Coulson said viciously. For some reason, he felt upset when he saw Loki and felt a dull pain in his chest. "I warn you, he is from Asgard. He must go back to Asgard with me to stand trial. He is the Prince of Asgard, my brother." Thor immediately began to refute. In the few short days since he came to Earth, he has directly and indirectly killed more than 80 people. Nick Fury said lightly. Actually, Loki was adopted by my father." Thor muttered guiltily. Loki on the ground couldn't help but roll his eyes. Regarding the question of how to treat Loki, everyone just said a few words hastily. At present, no one's mind is on this place, and no one knows where Hawkeye has taken the cosmic cube. Logically speaking, even if they have equipment to shield radiation, they will always be detected when activating the cosmic cube. To open a portal, to send an army over, you can't be in a room, right? If you are outside, you will definitely be detected. Although no news can be considered good news, the current situation is really tormenting. It is because of the calm sea that you don't know what will happen. This is the most terrifying thing. After waiting for a whole afternoon without any results, Loki was also locked in the huge circular cage in the movie, watching the sky getting darker and darker, not to mention Qin Xiao. Even Loki was secretly beating his drum in his heart, wondering what happened to Hawkeye. Until the early morning of the next day, when it was just dawn and the sun had not risen yet. The alarm sounded in the sky carrier. Everyone ran to the bridge as soon as possible. The first to arrive was Dr. Banner, who was staring at the screen in front of a computer. On the screen, a red exclamation mark was flashing continuously, and there was a world map below. As Dr. Banner tapped the keyboard with both hands, the map kept shrinking. Finally appeared. "Where is it?" Captain America asked first. "Wait, we are still narrowing down the scope. I'll confirm it soon. It's in Africa. This place is called Wakanda." Regarding the portal, that only existed for more than 2 hours, this is a deleted scene from Avengers 4. After watching some video footage of the Battle of New York on Earth, Rocket laughed loudly at the Avengers for fighting such a garbage race for more than 2 hours, and then had his hair on the top of his head shaved off by Tony with a razor. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136 Wakanda. Time went back to more than 10 hours ago. Hawkeye was just as Qin Xiao guessed. After thinking carefully about the strength comparison, he made a decisive decision to take Dr. Shavagan the instrument to activate the cosmic cube to Africa. Loki was right. Only after summoning the Chitauri army, it was the most correct way to rescue them while they were empty. So Hawkeye took Dr. Shavag to Africa. Wakanda in Eastern Africa was undoubtedly the best choice. It was poor and backward, and there were no large urban agglomerations, which made it easy to quickly assemble troops. There were also one or two small countries around that could be conquered at any time as temporary bases, and it was not far from the coastline. Time came again to 3 hours ago. It was 2:10 AM New York time and 9:10 AM Wakanda time. The reference here is the time difference between Ethiopia, which is also located in Eastern Africa, and New York. Wakanda is a fictional country, but in the Marvel universe it is indeed located in Eastern Africa. Hawkeye drove an off-road pickup truck into the grasslands of Wakanda. Dr. Shavik sat next to him, and the cosmic cube was placed in a box made of special materials. On the way, Dr. Shavik also asked Hawkeye why he chose Africa. Hawkeye's answer was that powerful weapons can destroy a planet in an instant, but if you want to conquer it, it is definitely a long-term war process. Africa is poor and backward, but the resources are quite rich. Is there a more suitable choice than occupying it first? Dr. Shavik nodded frequently after hearing this. In fact, when the two entered Wakanda, they were inevitably discovered. Although Wakanda is backward on the surface, it is also an open country. Although there are no famous tourist attractions, there are occasionally self-driving or backpackers who come to the grassland to watch the sunrise and sunset. In addition, the cosmic cube was shielded by a box of special materials, so the two came to the depths of the grassland of Wakanda unimpeded. And here, it is less than 2 kilometers away from the real Wakanda. When the two assembled the equipment, they were secretly monitored by the members of the King's Guard who thought that the two were going to use an astronomical telescope to watch the stars at night. It was not until an hour later that the cosmic cube was taken out. The alarm in the duty room of the King's Guard sounded frantically. The endless energy contained in the cosmic cube is like an energy source comparable to the sun in the eyes of Wakanda's detectors. The automatic security program immediately determined it to be the highest level of crisis. The equipment buried under the grassland began to operate automatically. The blue energy surged between the vibranium equipment underground. Soon, an energy shield covering a radius of 2 kilometers, isolating the outside world, the grassland and the royal city, soared into the sky. After a flash of blue light, the fully formed energy shield began to become looming. As long as you don't attack it, it is almost visually transparent. From tens of meters underground to thousands of meters in the sky, this area is covered in Wakanda's energy shield. What is this? What happened? Is this a high-density energy shield? Are you sure you brought me to Africa? Is this a relic left by an alien civilization? Dr. Shavik said in disbelief as he looked at the energy shield that suddenly rose around him. Hawkeye's eyes also revealed a strong sense of disbelief, but compared to Dr. Shavik, he was much calmer. He was just slightly stunned, and then he spoke immediately. Whatever this is, we'd better speed up. In the palace of Wakanda, the old King T'Chaka was talking to his son, the new generation of Black Panther. T'Challa, I'm very happy that you can become the most powerful warrior in Wakanda and inherit the title of Black Panther. But if you want to be a good king, the title of Black Panther alone is far from enough. The old king is getting older and older. He is preparing to slowly delegate power to his son. Under his supervision, he will train his son for a few more years before letting him go completely. So every morning, the old king will ask Black Panther to have breakfast with him and then discuss some major and minor affairs of Wakanda. Today is no exception. After chatting about business for a while, the old king decided to talk more about the conversation between father and son. Unfortunately, he was interrupted by the captain of the guard who hurried in. Your Majesty, Prince. The captain of the guard, Okoye, bowed slightly and greeted the two. Okoye, it's rare to see you a little uncalm. What happened outside? The old king asked with a smile. Just now, two outsiders entered the Wakanda grassland. We thought they were ordinary tourists, but they set up a device and took out an extraordinary energy source. Our detection equipment can't detect the energy limit of the energy source at all. After Okoye finished speaking, he pressed a few times on a string of vibranium beads in his hand, and a surveillance screen of a hidden camera appeared. It was the screen of Hawkeye and Dr. Shavik installing the cosmic cube. The system automatically judged it as the highest level of security incident and activated the energy shield on the grassland to isolate that area. Although I don't know what they want to do, but I think we should stop them immediately or kill them on the spot. Okoye said expressionlessly. Chaka has been a king all his life and has seen all kinds of storms. Okoye's words not only did not make him feel nervous, but he used this incident to test his son. Chala, what do you think we should do in the face of this unknown danger? The energy shield has been exposed. There is no need to hide, but we don't know what the other party wants to do. Otherwise, I will take people to capture the people first and then decide what to do after asking clearly. Black Panther looked at his father with an inquiring tone. The old king nodded and said with satisfaction, "Very good, child. As a king, you can never take someone's life easily. But you must remember that the king cannot go to do everything by himself. You are related to the safety of all Wakanda people. You must learn to assign reasonable things to the right people, no matter what you encounter, remember." Seeing Black Panther nodded, the old king turned his head and looked at Okoye again. Bring all the people and things back first, and wait for the inquiry to be clear. Before he finished speaking, he saw the cosmic cube in the picture began to emit blue energy, and then a blue beam of light shot up into the sky. It actually opened a huge wormhole hundreds of meters in the air. Okoye switched to another camera very tactfully. Under her control, the camera looked vertically at the wormhole in the sky. On the other side of the wormhole is the void of the universe and a group of soldiers controlling single-person flying vehicles ready to move. Alien invasion? The old king was no longer calm. Okoye, you must immediately gather all the soldiers of the army and go out to see what is going on. Chala, you must rush to the scene immediately and wait outside the protective cover to meet up with Okoye. Forget it, I will go with you in person. The old king stood up in a hurry. Chapter 137, The Flaw in the Energy Shield. Although the social form of Wakanda is still a backward tribal form, their reaction is quite fast. At the king's command, the warriors of each tribe are gathering quickly. 3 or 4 minutes after the old king and Black Panther separated from Okoye, they took a small team of guards to the outside of the energy shield on a flying vehicle. The Chitauri soldiers were densely packed from the wormhole, riding on individual flying vehicles and flying down. Looking from a distance, it seemed as if countless wasps had flown out of a hornet's nest. Your Majesty, I suggest opening another layer of energy shield 100 meters behind, and we retreat to the outside of the second layer. A guard said worriedly, for the king's safety. Not for the time being. The king waved his hand to reject her suggestion. Wakanda's energy is not endless, and vibranium is still being mined continuously. God knows how many troops are waiting to be transported above. If the protective shield in front of him is enough, then there is no need to open another layer. The most important thing is that he needs to see the strength of the alien army up close. Black Panther, on the other hand, was guarding the old king closely, watching the Chitauri soldiers and the energy shield flying all over the sky without moving. The Chitauri army, like hornets, rushed out frantically after coming down. Driving at high speed, they were smashed into pieces one by one on the energy shield. In the sky, a dragon roar sounded, and a Chitauri dragon-shaped aircraft swayed its huge body and drilled out of the wormhole. Damn. What the hell is this? The old king's face changed, and he ordered the guards around him. Increase the energy output, and concentrate all the energy in this layer of energy shield. Dad, this is too risky. Let's open another layer of energy shield. You can go back and command. Leave this to me. Black Panther looked at the old king a little worriedly and said, one layer can't stop it, and 2 layers are the same. We should increase the defense here. Behind us is a city, where there are a large number of civilians. No matter what, we must control the battlefield here. Don't persuade me anymore. I'm here to fight with you. As he spoke, the first dragon-shaped aircraft in the sky had already crashed into the energy shield. The huge dragon head suddenly hit the energy shield, and the translucent energy shield glowed blue. The place where the energy shield and the dragon head touched made a crackling sound like a mosquito lamp electrocuting mosquitoes. In the process of the dragon head squeezing the energy shield with difficulty, the outer shell was slowly corroded by the energy, and finally the soft artificial biological tissue inside was exposed. Finally, when the entire dragon-shaped aircraft passed halfway, it was cut in half by the energy shield. Although it resisted the dragon-shaped aircraft, the Chitauri soldiers that hit it later were not directly crushed like before. Instead, they passed through the energy shield directly, but only a little bit of their heads were exposed before they were directly cut in half. It was not until more than 10 seconds later that it slowly recovered its original power. Notify Okoi to dispatch combat aircraft and pay close attention to the area where this big guy hits the energy shield to prevent the energy from not being replenished and transmitted in time and letting the fish escape. The old king was still giving orders. Not knowing the number and details of the opponent, he decided to use energy to resist for a while and observe the enemy situation and consider countermeasures. The scene of the dragon-shaped aircraft temporarily weakening after hitting the energy shield was also keenly captured by Hawkeye in the distance. At this time, he has fully understood that this backward country he has carefully selected hides advanced technology that the whole world does not know. Things are a bit troublesome, but now the top priority is not to occupy any base, but to find a way out and rescue Loki first. Hawkeye bent his bow and shot an arrow and directly killed a Chitauri soldier. Calming down his mind, he put his hand on the individual aircraft that the soldier fell. The Chitauri army and soldiers are very similar to the insect social structure of ants or bees. All the equipment or soldiers in the army and the dragon-shaped aircraft around them are all thinking or operating systems. Hawkeye can convey his ideas to the Chitauri soldiers here through a single soldier aircraft. And the mark from the Mind Stone on his scepter is exactly his command authority over the army. It has been noticed that Wakanda has a large number of troops and armed aircraft. Hawkeye commanded several dragon-shaped aircraft to launch a suicidal charge directly towards the energy shield from different directions. As for those disorganized Chitauri soldiers, Hawkeye originally wanted them to use the energy weapons in their hands to consume the energy of the energy shield. But what he needs most at the moment is to get out, and the disorganized fighting can hide himself better. After making sure that the dragon-shaped aircraft is enough to attract the attention of the group of people outside, Hawkeye quietly commanded dozens of Chitauri soldiers, seemingly scattered, and launched an attack towards a specific point. More than 20 soldiers in a row were desperately squeezing and tearing at a point with their bodies, continuously consuming the energy of this small piece of energy shield. It can be seen with the naked eye that each Chitauri soldier persists at this point for longer and longer. After paying the lives of 27 Chitauri soldiers, a gap of about 1.5 meters in diameter appeared on the energy shield at this point. Doctor, quick. Hawkeye made a prompt decision, jumped up, and jumped out of the gap. The gap was slowly healing. Looking at the gap that was getting smaller and smaller, Shavik gritted his teeth and learned to jump and shuttle like Hawkeye. He almost jumped out of the gap, but half of the toe of the shoe on his foot was scratched off. His toes were almost cut off. God bless. Looking at his shoes with his toes exposed, Dr. Shavik breathed a sigh of relief and said, God will not bless scum like you. As soon as Dr. Shavik finished speaking, a voice accompanied by a black shadow appeared in front of him. Before he could see who it was, Dr. Shavik was knocked unconscious by a punch. Hawkeye on the side immediately drew his bow and arrow, and an explosive arrow with a macro bomb shot towards the suddenly approaching Black Panther. Who knew that the Black Panther didn't dodge or evade, but directly withstood the impact and explosion. Without even a sway, he rushed straight towards me. 4 chapters are finished. I have something to do during the day recently, and I'm busy from 10 o'clock every day until the evening. I can only update at night, 4 chapters a day. I will resume the normal update time as soon as possible in the next 2 days, so that everyone can read more comfortably. I can also turn over and sleep more normally. Chapter 138 Avengers Appearance. Although the damage to the energy shield caused by the dragon flying aircraft looked scary, it was safe with the cooperation of the warriors of each tribe. However, the Chitauri soldiers, who failed to force their way through at the beginning, switched to shooting with the energy weapons in their hands. In an instant, the energy supply was on the high voltage line. Okoi, let the guards line up. We need to open a hole to keep the energy shield stable. The old king gave the order. 5 minutes later, the energy shield opened a gap about 2 meters wide. For a moment, the Chitauri soldiers swarmed towards the gap like sharks smelling blood. The king's guards, who were already on high alert, blocked the gap. The spears in their hands turned into high-density energy weapons and fired continuously at the gap. The blue energy shot densely towards the gap, and the Chitauri soldiers who had just approached fell one after another. looking down from the air. This scene was extremely shocking and decompressing, and it felt like playing a tower defense game. It was also because of this gap that Dr. Banner discovered the trace of the cosmic cube a few minutes later. Hawkeye shook his head, which was aching. The fragments of memories of the previous control kept coming to him, but he could not piece together a complete memory. He just felt that his head was getting more and more painful. Hawkeye couldn't help but reach out to hold his head, but found that his hands were firmly tied to his body and couldn't move. Hawkeye's face was painful, veins were exposed, and he couldn't help shouting. Then he slowly opened his eyes. Two black women in strange red clothes stood beside him, holding spears in their hands, looking at him from the left and right. Hawkeye himself was tied up and lying on the grass. The old king sat on a folding chair brought by Okoye, with Okoye and Black Panther standing behind him, looking at Hawkeye, who had woken up with curiosity. Awake. If you wake up, quickly explain what's going on with these aliens? The old king asked Hawkeye with a normal face. Even if the memories during the control were all fragments, Hawkeye could guess what happened. I didn't expect there really is an army. This is an alien civilization, the Chitauri. They came to Earth because there was no need to hide anything now. Hawkeye told the old king everything about SHIELD, the cosmic cube, and Loki. I need to make a phone call. This portal can't be closed by conventional means. Who knows what will come out in the future? I have to make a phone call. Hawkeye said as he struggled to sit up. Call and ask more of your alien accomplices to come to Earth? Okoye said coldly. Just now, she and Black Panther led people to charge in, and also tried to directly close the cosmic cube but failed. As a result, 2 of her men died inside. It would be strange if he was angry with Hawkeye now. The old king did not comment and still looked at Black Panther. The so-called cosmic cube, the energy shield outside is so high that it is unimaginable. We really have no way to close the wormhole in the sky for the time being. Even if we find a way in the future, who knows how many people will be sacrificed in the process. We have already sacrificed several soldiers today. I think we can try to trust him. I think so too. Although I'm not sure about his relationship with those aliens. He did not lie about some issues, such as his identity as a SHIELD agent. The speaker was Black Panther's sister, Shuri. At this time, she was only about 13 or 14 years old, but she had an unparalleled scientific talent at a young age. Inside Wakanda, they thought Shuri was the most talented scientist in the world, not the Tony Stark rumored outside. Shuri, when did you come? The old king said in surprise, but he did not blame his daughter too much. This daughter has been very opinionated since she was a child. When he was telling those stories, Shuri was holding a tablet computer, which showed Hawkeye's personal file information in SHIELD. I just went to the SHIELD database for a look. Shuri took the tablet and showed it to her father and saw Hawkeye's somewhat incredible eyes. Turning to Hawkeye, he smiled and said, actually, your firewall is very good, but it just met me. Shuri opened not only Hawkeye's information, but also the information about the cosmic cube and SHIELD's project information on the cosmic cube. Combined with Hawkeye's words, after mutual verification, it can be basically confirmed that Hawkeye's words are true. You can call, but for safety reasons, please cooperate for the time being, and don't leave our site. Your equipment cannot be returned to you for the time being. Black Panther said, squatting in front of him with a mobile phone. He untied the rope that tied Hawkeye. Thank you. But there should be no need to make this call, because they are already here. Hawkeye looked at the sky in the distance and whispered, people from SHIELD. Black Panther stood up and asked, no, it's the Avengers. Hawkeye said, looking at the 2 small black dots in the sky. The 2 small black dots that Black Panther could barely see began to approach this side at an alarming speed. Soon, 2 figures, one red and one black, flashed across the sky, crossed the range of the energy shield, and flew towards Black Panther, Hawkeye and others from the left and right. Bang! Qin Xiao and Tony rushed down from the sky, and their feet slammed heavily on the grass with the added gravity of landing. Sure. The surrounding king's guards raised their weapons towards the 2. The old king waved his hand, signaling everyone to put down their weapons. Qin Xiao, Tony Stark, I didn't expect that our Wakanda would not only face the attack of aliens in one day, but also welcome two superheroes. Hello, this must be the respected king of Wakanda. First of all, the two of us are not superheroes, and there are more than just the two of us. Chapter 139. Let the whole world owe us a favor. Vibranium brings more black technology to Wakanda than what is shown in the movie. Qin Xiao saw with his own eyes that the old king of Wakanda had someone bring a metal block about the size of 2 bricks. After gently tapping it a few times, the metal block stretched and deformed several times and turned directly into a small house of more than 10 square meters. 4 claws stretched out from under the small house and sank deeply into the soil. My father was deceived back then. The captain's shield is not the only vibranium in the world. They use this kind of thing luxuriously as a wild tent. This thing actually has no technological content. It's just thin. Tony said, a little unhappy. God knows how much he longs for a set of vibranium armor. And he hates the way most Wakandans here look at others, as if they are looking at country bumpkins. I know what you are thinking. I promise you that sooner or later I will help you get some vibranium to build an invincible armor. Qin Xiao patted Tony on the shoulder and stepped into the house. Everyone already knows the cause of the incident, so there is nothing to talk about. Loki also explained that the portal can be closed with the scepter, and Dr. Shavig, who woke up, also confirmed this. Now we have to talk about how to get in quickly and close the portal. In this outdoor tent made of vibranium, they set up a small meeting room with tables and chairs. Everyone sat in a circle, discussing how to better cooperate, get in, and close the portal. Excuse me, I don't think we need to discuss any battle plan. Your energy shield is great. It effectively blocked these aliens and trapped them in such a small place. But now we are here. You just need to do what you did before. Tony spread his hands and said, this is Wakanda. It's you who caused trouble in our place. All you need to do is hand over the scepter, and we will naturally close the portal. Okoye said with her unique arrogance. I don't know when Wakanda became ruled by the queen. Is this your new king? Tony said to the old king in an extremely exaggerated tone. You want to fight? You imp who can only hide in metal armor. Okoye stood up and said angrily. Are you talking about that guy? Tony pointed at the Black Panther sitting next to the king and said. Also, speaking of wimps hiding behind metal, is there anyone more suitable for this title than you? Hiding behind vibranium and developing secretly. If it weren't for these vibraniums, I think your Wakanda's development in Africa can be among the top 50. There are only about 60 countries and regions in Africa. When it comes to the skill of taunting, how could Okoye beat Tony's opponent? However, as the captain of the King's Guard, Okoye would definitely not talk too much when he could take action. Hearing this, he directly picked up his spear. Qin Xiao quietly had a basin-sized fireball in his hand, spinning on the table. Lightning also came out of the hammer in Thor's hand. Loki did this. He is from Asgard. If you are not satisfied with this, Asgard can be held responsible. When he said this, lightning flashed from his hammer. He didn't look like he was going to be responsible at all. What hammer would you be responsible for? Qin Xiao had no intention of being an enemy of Wakanda, but he did not like the captain of the guard who seemed a little superior. The old king stretched out his hand to stop Okoye. It was Natasha who gave Qin Xiao a way out first and spoke before the old king. Now is not the time to pursue responsibility. The invasion of alien troops is a matter for the entire human race. We are here to solve the problem, Your Majesty. That's right. We have to solve the problem first. I won't ask you for the scepter. We will send a team to work with you. Closing the portal is a priority. Let's solve the problem together. The old king's words eased the atmosphere, and then he continued. But these Chitauri invaded our planet and consumed so much of our energy. It's a bit too easy for them to just close a portal. The old king motioned to Shuri to take out a tablet computer. On it was a screenshot taken by a hidden camera on the ground when the Chitauri army first came in. It was taken almost directly facing the wormhole, and most of the picture was densely packed with Chitauri soldiers. But when Shuri magnified apart hundreds of times, he found a crab-like four-legged space battleship. Although it was very blurry, at least he could see its general appearance. I guess this is their command ship or base. If, before closing the portal, we launch a nuclear warhead at them, the old king, is still the best. He usually looks like a kind and benevolent king, but he is ruthless when dealing with invaders. You also develop nuclear bombs? Tony and Hawkeye said almost at the same time. Tony was surprised, while Hawkeye stood on the side of S.H.I.E.L.D. If Wakanda, a country with hidden high technology, had rich vibranium resources, and if their hiding was to start a war, such as to conquer the world, or invade other countries, it would definitely be a disaster. Don't be so surprised. If we had some other thoughts, we would have unified Africa as early as World War II when the whole world was caught in the flames of war. We bought the nuclear warheads on the black market. After the disintegration of the Soviet Union, you know that, once our vibranium is exposed, it will attract the covetousness of the whole world. We dare not say that we can fight against the whole world. We need a little self-protection means. Except for Qin Xiao, the Avengers are the original 6-member group, and Wakanda has dispatched Black Panther and a 10-man guard team led by Okoye. This is the team that everyone finally decided to come out and enter the energy shield. After letting everyone prepare, the old king grabbed Qin Xiao. Let me first apologize to you for what happened to Okoye. Wakanda is isolated from the world, and its technology is far ahead of the rest of the world. It's inevitable that they will feel a little proud. The old king lowered his posture and said to Qin Xiao, I can understand. You don't have to apologize for this. Why did you keep me here? Qin Xiao didn't quite understand. It was normal for the two sides to have some minor frictions in the initial cooperation. Although Okoye looked superior, to be honest, both Black Panther and the old king looked approachable. Qin Xiao had a good impression of them. Cooperation. Wakanda can't stay so closed forever. We need to contact the world, but our vibranium is too easy to attract the attention of the world. We need a suitable opportunity. The old king said calmly. I know about your affairs, especially after you disintegrated the Red House. I heard that you threatened all the senators in the Senate. Well done, young man, but you and I both know that this is not a long-term solution. Those greedy politicians will not allow anyone to override them. In this regard, we are in the same situation as you. And now, the opportunity has come. The alien invasion is not just a matter of Wakanda or the Avengers. Good things should be known to others, especially this kind of thing that makes the whole world owe us a favor, right? The old king smiled kindly, and Qin Xiao looked like an old fox, no matter how he looked at him. Chapter 140, The Avengers Combat Strength. Wakanda is shocked. Outside the energy shield of the Wakanda battlefield, in order to plug the gap that was deliberately released, Wakanda dispatched at least hundreds of fighters and warriors from two tribes. The corpses at the gap have almost piled up into a mountain. In fact, even if there is no Wakanda, the so-called conquest of the earth by the Chitauri is really a joke. Unless you directly dispatch millions or even tens of millions of troops, or directly paralyze the earth in outer space. Otherwise, relying on these Chitauri soldiers, the weapons in their hands, are indeed much more advanced than the firearms on earth, but it is just a matter of life for life. No matter how advanced your weapons are, it is just a matter of you hitting me, and I hitting you. Gunpowder weapons are still effective against them. It's nothing more than the dragon-shaped spacecraft using more missiles to bomb. Thinking about these messy things in my mind, everyone has assembled. And the nuclear warhead that the old king mentioned is now quietly hanging on a fighter, waiting in the distance. As the landlord of Wakanda, the old king stood up and began to make a pre-war declaration to boost morale. These ugly alien races are called Chitauri. They are colluding with an evil god from Asgard and want to conquer the earth. No matter what their reasons are, they put Wakanda as their first stop. What I want to say is that these sons of bitches chose the wrong place. Wakanda will win. The Black Panther behind him shouted that sentence at the right time. Then all the warriors present shouted out the old joke from Qin Xiao's previous life. Whiter than me, whiter than me. Qin Xiao definitely did not mean to discriminate against race, but it was really shocking to hear so many black people shouting this sentence together. Especially influenced by the video of his previous life, Qin Xiao always thought that this sentence was whiter than me. Seeing that everyone was in high spirits, the old king stretched out his hand to signal everyone to calm down, and then continued. We have selected several warriors. They will go in and close the portal with the Avengers under the leadership of Black Panther. Before closing the portal, we will send our return gift to their command ship. Before the warriors go in, to complete this glorious mission, what we need to do is to hold our ground and protect the safety of our homeland behind us. Long live Wakanda. Long live Black Panther. The old king's words not only aroused everyone's fighting spirit, but also increased his son's prestige. Qin Xiao curled his lips. It turns out that no king has a simple mind. Odin of Asgard is like this, and so is this old Black Panther. Qin Xiao was not infected by the emotions of these Wakanda warriors. He just turned his head and looked at the people around him, but accidentally saw Okoye's eyes full of provocation and dissatisfaction. Qin Xiao smiled, stretched out his hand, and pulled Dr. Banner, who was a little at a loss. Come on, Banner, it's time to let the little beast in your heart roar. Qin Xiao gave him an encouraging look. Banner nodded to everyone, and under everyone's gaze, he first strode towards the gap in the energy shield. After a few steps, his foot hooked a branch, and he fell flat on his face. All the Avengers covered their faces with their hands. Banner smiled back a little embarrassedly, but saw the extremely disgusted eyes of Okoye and the female guards. The old king walked in front of Qin Xiao. Are you sure you don't have to go in together? We dare not stop firing for too long. You only have 20 seconds to enter the gap. It's okay. Believe me. Qin Xiao and a group of people stepped to the front of the defense line. At the old king's order, the energy shield expanded another 2 or 3 meters in height, and the surrounding tribal warriors and fighters in the air stopped firing. Inside the energy shield, the Zatori soldiers and a nearby dragon-shaped spaceship flew directly to the gap. Banner, who was walking in the front, looked back again, turned around and rushed towards the dragon-shaped spaceship. Is he looking for death? Okoye, who had already started charging with the Avengers, came to Natasha and said lightly. The next moment, all the Wakanda warriors opened their mouths and could no longer speak. Just before the dragon-shaped spaceship was about to approach him, Dr. Banner's muscles quickly bulged and turned green. The whole person instantly turned into a green giant over 2 meters tall. Roar. He raised his head and roared, and punched the dragon-shaped spaceship that was dozens of times larger than himself. With a violent punch, the rapidly flying dragon-shaped spaceship was directly stopped by a punch. The body of the dragon-shaped spaceship turned over directly under the huge inertia. With a whistling sound, Qin Xiao controlled the armor and flew directly to the body of the dragon-shaped spaceship. The Tang sword in his hand flashed, and he cut directly along the tail of the dragon-shaped spaceship towards the head below. Tony aimed directly at a piece of the dragon-shaped spaceship that had been torn apart and fired a missile directly into it. It was directly blown into 2 pieces. The fourth person to attack was Thor. He went high in the sky and absorbed enough lightning. With the force of thunder, he almost smashed into the gap with his hammer. Amid the explosion, lightning attacked in all directions, directly clearing the surrounding area of dozens of meters. Hulk jumped and rushed in. After Tony fired the missile, he knocked away countless Chitauri soldiers in the air. He flew directly over the captain's head, and the laser cannons in both hands gathered into an energy beam and shot at the captain. The captain raised his shield with both hands and turned around in the air. The reflected energy beam swept a large circle in the air, and the Chitauri soldiers fell down like dumplings. It has only been more than 10 seconds since Dr. Banner transformed into the Hulk and threw the first punch. The 5 people went in and directly cleared the enemies within hundreds of meters around. And look at this posture. Qin Xiao and Tony rushed in the air, and the captain used the shield and Thor to shake down a large number of Chitauri soldiers again. The big green guy was standing on another dragon-shaped spaceship, and he peeled off the outer shell of the dragon-shaped spaceship with his bare hands, as if peeling an egg. This made the Wakandans, who thought that temporarily stopping shooting and expanding the gap would allow more enemies to emerge, dumbfounded. Why did they mobilize so many people to expand the encirclement at the gap? To watch the fun. There were no enemies coming out, and the inside was cleared out. Black Panther, Okoye and others who had just followed Hawkeye and Natasha to the gap were stunned by the large empty space in front of them. None of these guys are normal people, just get used to it. Natasha smiled and patted Okoye's shoulder and strode into the battle. Okoye's mouth twitched, and he could no longer speak. Chapter 141 The World's Eyes. Not only Okoye and other people and warriors from other tribes in Wakanda, but even the well-informed old king opened his mouth in surprise at this moment. People who know that the Avengers are also called superheroes, but they never thought that they would have such strong fighting power. Qin Xiao and Iron Man are fine, but the so-called Thor, especially the big green guy, is simply, it's. The old king thought about it for a long time and couldn't find a suitable adjective. What Tyrannosaurus Rex, humanoid tank, seems to be too weak compared to the Hulk. Anyway, it is just too violent. The old king is more relieved about the cooperation he had talked about with Qin Xiao before. Not counting the current fighting power, just the means Qin Xiao showed in the House of Representatives. The old king knows that this young man still has many unknown cards. With him as an ally, Wakanda can really rest assured in the future. At least after he meets the Black Panther goddess in the future, he will no longer have to worry about Wakanda being swallowed up by other countries. With these unknown thoughts in his mind, the old king did not stop the work that should be started. Gently winking at Shuri beside him, hundreds of drones with high-definition cameras in the back all took off. There were also some cameras that had not been damaged in the battlefield, all aimed at the battle scenes between the Avengers and the Wakanda warriors. Shuri pulled out a projected keyboard from his tablet. With 10 fingers dancing out of Phantom, he quietly hacked into several satellites. A few minutes later, some mainstream TV stations in major countries were hacked, and all TV screens were switched to battlefield scenes. Live broadcasts of live scenes also appeared on major platforms on the internet. The titles were all, "Do you think your world is safe enough? These heroes are fighting with their lives in places you can't see." Or another style, "Aliens really exist. How much truth has the government hidden? Who can tell me how many times aliens have invaded?" In short, in an instant, the whole world exploded. At first, some people may question whether these pictures are fake, but regardless of whether the people in them are likely to be fake, the so-called masters are among the people. Soon the authenticity of these video pictures was concluded by some folk gods. On the Sky Carrier, Agent Hill was talking to Nick Fury about this matter with a tablet computer, on which there were battle scenes that switched from time to time. Just now, several members of the council came to us. They are doing their best to dispel rumors and block these signals. They asked us to cooperate with their blocking work. They said that these things would cause panic among the people. These pictures have been appearing for half an hour. Although they have not contacted Hawkeye and others yet, even a fool can see that Wakanda hides too many things. Combining the previous information, Nick Fury quickly concluded that Wakanda should have concealed the fact that it has a large amount of vibranium. And using these vibranium to develop technology, it is already far ahead of the world. For example, the energy shield, a large-scale energy shield of this intensity, may not be able to be made by all the countries in the world united. Unless Tony Stark takes out his arc reactor technology for everyone to refer to. Agent Hill, tell me, if we block all signals now, can people outside believe the government's lies and think that these images are all fake? Agent Hill thought very seriously for more than 10 seconds. Now is not decades ago. People are not fools. They have enough technology and information sources to prove the authenticity of these things, sir. That's right. Reply to those committee members. Our SHIELD database is being hacked, and a detailed report on this incident that we just compiled has been completely leaked. Nick Fury tapped the table lightly with his fingers. Sir, what do you mean? Hill said in disbelief. That's what I mean. Trust your own judgment. Nick Fury said seriously. Wakanda has been hiding for so long. Since they want to expose it, let them expose it. And Qin Xiao and others. Things have come to this point. Let us help publicize it, so that the whole world knows that there are these superheroes in this world. Since it can't be concealed, it's better to do a favor. Nick Fury will not do anything that loses money. Looking at Wakanda, unlike the battle in New York, after the Avengers and others entered, the pressure outside was greatly reduced. Under the premise that it was safe enough outside, Qin Xiao and others were not in a hurry to close the portal immediately. On the one hand, Qin Xiao secretly cooperated with the old king's plan. On the other hand, according to Qin Xiao's statement to the captain and others, Under the premise of ensuring safety, everyone can use this opportunity to exercise cooperation in battle. In just over half an hour of fighting, Hulk really had a lot of fun this time, and Tony had more ideas about upgrading his armor. And what about the captain? A shield is simply a flower to cooperate with everyone. Not to mention the classic energy beam reflection with Tony and the shockwave of Thor's hammer. Qin Xiao saw more than once that, when Thor summoned a huge lightning from the sky to bombard the ground, Captain America's shield flew under the lightning just right. Originally, the lightning that bombarded the ground could only shake off the surrounding dozens of meters. After hitting the shield directly, a lightning as thick as an arm turned into dozens or even dozens of electric snakes, whistling in all directions. A lightning bolt can connect dozens of Chitauri soldiers who are relatively close to each other. The killing area is more than several times stronger. Sometimes when the captain throws out a shield at a group of dense Chitauri soldiers, Thor, who is nearby, will cooperate very well and hit the shield in the air with a hammer. The shockwave generated at that moment can directly clear all Chitauri soldiers within a 10-meter range. Tony used his speed and the solidity of his armor in the air to clean up the soldiers while attracting the dragon-shaped spaceships in the air and pulling them towards Hulk. Qin Xiao rushed directly to the entrance of the wormhole with a single sword. Almost half of the soldiers and dragon-shaped spaceships that came out of the wormhole were chopped into several pieces by Qin Xiao as soon as they came out, and they fell directly to the ground. On the Wakanda side, except for the agile figure of Black Panther who kept rushing among the Chitauri soldiers, the 10-man team led by Okoye could only use the wreckage of the dragon-shaped spaceship on the ground as a position, and played a fixed-point shooting game with Hawkeye and Natasha. This chapter counts as the 31st. After 4 chapters, updates will be made during the day starting from the 1st. Chapter 142. At this moment, people all over the world are quiet. Bang. Next to the cosmic cube, a huge metal dragon head fell heavily to the ground. Hulk jumped over from a distance. He smashed a Chitauri soldier's flying vehicle in midair, grabbed 2 Chitauri soldiers, and tore them in half. He landed heavily next to the dragon head. Hulk roared, grabbed the dragon head on the ground, and smashed it towards a Chitauri soldier in the sky. Qin Xiao also fell from the sky with a tang sword in one hand, and took a look at the situation around him. He held the headset and called the old king outside the field. It's almost done. You can go out. Tony, pay attention to the plane. The big fireworks are coming to deliver. Hulk. After saying that, Qin Xiao looked at Hulk who was picking up the wreckage on the ground and throwing bombs into the air. Roar. Hulk roared and turned to look at Qin Xiao. Pay attention to the surroundings. Don't let those big guys get close to here. Qin Xiao pointed at the dragon-shaped spaceship in the distance and said. Hulk was holding a half shell of a dragon-shaped spacecraft, which was more than 2 meters long and about 1 meter wide, ready to throw it into the sky. Hearing Qin Xiao's words, Hulk tilted his head and thought for a moment. Then he raised the shell in his hand, and bang. It hit Qin Xiao's head directly. Qin Xiao was hit so hard that his body lowered and his feet were directly inserted into the mud of the grass, almost up to his thighs. What are you doing, Hulk? Qin Xiao, with only half of his body outside, raised his head and spread his hands, and asked Hulk angrily. You liar. You said you often let me fight, but Hulk hasn't come out for a long time. Hulk ordered Qin Xiao angrily. Qin Xiao felt a little embarrassed when Hulk said that. He pulled himself out of the grass with difficulty. There weren't so many enemies before, although not many came out, but Hulk had a good time this time, didn't he? Look at you. Your breathing is more rapid than before. You are tired of fighting, right? Qin Xiao smiled and talked to Hulk in a coaxing tone again. Hulk also grinned slightly, and then, bang, a straight punch directly knocked Qin Xiao dozens of meters away. After the fight, this punch is satisfying for Hulk. With a silent grin, Hulk jumped up from the ground and rushed towards the dragon-shaped spaceship flying in the distance. PFFT. Qin Xiao shook his head and spit out a few grass leaves from his mouth. Just as he was about to curse at Hulk in the distance, the voice of the old king came from the headset. Qin, the goods have arrived. Qin Xiao looked up and saw a plane flying from a distance at the gap. Tony was waiting not far from the gap, cleaning up the soldiers around. Thor. Qin Xiao shouted to Thor. send some lightning to the wormhole entrance, and clean up those annoying soldiers. Thor immediately cooperated and summoned 2 waves of lightning, all of which hit the entrance of the wormhole. Qin Xiao also flew into the air again, to prevent the surrounding Zatori soldiers from coming to make trouble. Almost as soon as he flew up, Tony and a fighter plane were flying close to the ground. When they were about to arrive, they pulled up at a 90-degree angle, and was towards the wormhole above with the energy beam of cosmic magic. No, there are still many troops on the other side of the wormhole. The distance is too far. I'm not sure I can lock onto that big guy directly. Shura's voice came from the headset. The drone was carrying the nuclear warhead, and it was Shuri who was operating it. Then let's increase our confidence and fly up. As soon as Tony finished speaking, he was one step ahead of the plane, and flew towards the wormhole. This was not the Battle of New York. There were no large numbers of civilians facing the threat of nuclear bombs below. Tony was not so impulsive to rush in directly, but went up half a body length, and then used the powerful disposable laser in his hand, to sweep the army not far from the hole. Thor was also condensing a lot of lightning, following Tony, and smashed his hammer with lightning directly into the wormhole. He cleared a long passage before the plane entered the wormhole. Unfortunately, there were still a large number of dragon-shaped spaceships and Zatori soldiers waiting in line to enter. However, the blank space created by Thor and Tony was enough for the fighter to enter safely. Shua Yui's reaction was also fast enough. After entering the wormhole, he turned directly and avoided the straight military road in space. He controlled the fighter to re-aim the direction, and got as close to the command ship as possible, and then immediately locked the target. I've locked it. Oh. Come and try the big guy. Shua Yui excitedly pressed the launch button on the simulator. Qin Xiao took out Loki's scepter without hesitation, and before he landed, he threw it towards the cosmic cube. As expected of an infinity stone, the scepter inlaid with the mind stone directly broke through the energy shield of the space stone. The scepter had just touched the outer shell of the cosmic cube, and the outer energy shield of the cosmic cube went out of control. A shock wave swept out and directly cleared the surrounding area of dozens of meters. The energy beam emitted by the cosmic cube broke with a sound. Qin Xiao ignored the scepter on the ground, but stared at the wormhole above without blinking. Without the energy supply from the cosmic cube, the wormhole began to shrink slowly. In the space at the other end of the wormhole, a flash of fire flashed and disappeared in the direction of the command ship. Boom. Although no one heard the sound of the explosion, they saw the huge command ship explode into a flame in an instant. Everyone couldn't help but add the sound in their hearts. The timing was just right, just when the shockwave was about to approach the wormhole. The wormhole closed, the last gap in the space returned to normal. The Zatori soldiers in the dragon-shaped spacecraft on the ground seemed to have lost power. They all shut down and fell to the ground. The Wakanda warriors outside the energy shield cheered in unison. People around the world who were watching the screen in front of the TV or computer mobile phone also cheered in unison. Almost at the same time, Qin Xiao, Thor and Tony landed next to the cosmic cube. Did you see me break out of the wormhole just now? That was definitely the greatest attack in human history. Tony announced his contribution to the two. Thor gestured with the hammer in his hand. Your attack was visually impressive, but in fact, you didn't kill many people. It was mainly because my hammer and lightning cleared all the troops around the wormhole. Qin Xiao looked at the two people with contempt. If I hadn't been fighting in the wormhole, you two wouldn't have been able to clear so many people, even if you two attacked twice. Do you understand? Humph. Thor and Tony snorted disdainfully and turned their heads to the left and right. The three people stopped arguing and smiled triumphantly, standing on the grass at a 45-degree angle and looking up at the sky. There were battle debris all around them. This scene was captured by the camera and directly transmitted through the signal. The three people, coupled with the battlefield around them, had a bleak and majestic feeling. These are the superheroes on our Earth. Everyone who saw this scene said this silently in their hearts. Suddenly, a black shadow flashed across the screen. Boom. A dragon-shaped spaceship that had lost its power slid down from the side and hit the three superheroes directly. Just like the moment when the wormhole was completely closed. At this moment, people all over the world were also quiet. Your morning chapter is back. July has passed, and it's the first day of August. I wish everyone a smooth August. Students, have fun in the summer vacation and go crazy. Also, today is Army Day. If you see PLA soldiers, salute them. They are the superheroes who carry the burden for us. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143 Post-War Harvest. Qin Xiao felt that he was not destined to be a celebrity. The first time he made headlines, the media copied him as a couple. Now the photo of him and Tony making a scissor hand gesture is still hanging in the bedroom of his Los Angeles apartment. Last time, he finally succeeded in pretending to be cool in the Senate, but was directly suppressed by the government, and the media did not report it at all. This is the second time. In the photo, Qin Xiao looked embarrassed, covered in dirt, and had a few grass leaves on his head. Tony on the other side was not much better. He shrank back with one hand and one foot. Although he did not take off his mask, he perfectly interpreted what it meant to have a look of seeing a ghost with his actions. This was all thanks to the old king of Wakanda. Not only did he hack the TV networks all over the world, but before the battle ended, he also sent people to bring in many reporters from world-class media from some nearby countries. Qin Xiao was caught off guard. He was hit by the dragon-shaped spacecraft while standing. As soon as he flipped out, he found that there were several reporters in front of him taking pictures. That's how Tony's action language of seeing a ghost came from. In sharp contrast to the two of them was Thor. Although Thor knew what a reporter and a camera were, he had no idea about these things. The three angry people overturned the dragon-shaped spacecraft together and suddenly saw the reporter holding a camera. Thor's first reaction was that he was an enemy, and he glared at him with his hammer. Although he reacted immediately, this first reaction was directly photographed. Not to mention that he was firmly in the center position. He had unruly long hair, perfect muscle lines on his arms, plus the momentum facing the enemy and the coquettish cape fluttering in the wind behind him. The more you look at it, the more you feel that there are two clowns standing beside him. Damn old fox, he even arranged the reporters in advance. How afraid is he that people don't know that Wakanda has helped to protect the world? Tony said viciously, throwing a newspaper on the table. No, I think it's good. Jane called me yesterday to praise me. This photo is well taken. You two are too stingy. Thor picked up the newspaper and looked at the photo on the front page, saying with a puzzled look on his face, "Stupid." Qin Xiao and Tony cursed in unison. This is something Tony just learned recently, and he finds it very enjoyable. In fact, Qin Xiao made a lot of money this time, not to mention that he got Wakanda as a partner. Just in terms of system points, Black Panther, Shuri and Okoye each contributed 500 points. The result of the war with the Chitauri foreshadows the completion of the plot of the Avengers. This is different from the plot of the previous single-player movies. This time the system directly gave 5,000 points. The points came to 5,600 again, and Qin Xiao exchanged for a middle-level fighting skill without hesitation. Anyway, the other items in the second level mall have been bought, so it's all done now. However, this intermediate fighting skill is actually very good. Let's not talk about the skills first, which need to be practiced in battle, but the control of the body, strength and speed of the shot have been improved by at least 20%. This is undoubtedly a step up in strength for Qin Xiao's current close combat style, which is mainly based on the body. After purchasing all the things in the second level mall, the system began to upgrade, and this upgrade took a full month. Because the third level mall will open a permission, the exchanged goods will be directly used by others. For example, if Natasha does not use a serum, then the lifespan of her and Qin Xiao will be a big problem. Qin Xiao still likes this. While ensuring his strength, he does not mind exchanging for all his friends around him. Otherwise, it would be too uncomfortable to watch the people around him grow old one by one. But now these are all in the future. No one knows what will be there after the third level mall is opened. Loki's matter has finally come to an end. He will be taken back to Asgard directly by Thor. As for the scepter, Qin Xiao did not fight with SHIELD. He just waited for Hydra to take the scepter. This gem is related to the 3 superheroes. Qin Xiao does not know what he will face in this world in the future. Every bit of combat power is very important, especially for high combat powers such as Vision and Scarlet Witch. There are still many things to discuss slowly in the cooperation with Wakanda, but Wakanda has just exposed itself to the world, and the old king has many things to do recently. We can only wait and see. Qin Xiao is thinking about the cosmic cube now. As a result, before he found Thor came to him. I need the cosmic cube to take Loki back to Asgard. You know, I broke the Rainbow Bridge, and my father said that the cosmic cube is needed to repair it. That's all? Qin Xiao was a little surprised, because these were already agreed upon. No, my father told me that the cosmic cube belongs to you, and Asgard needs to borrow it first, so I have to tell you. Thor said honestly. Odin took the initiative to say that it belongs to me. Now it was Qin Xiao's turn to be curious. Although he also had this idea, Odin took the initiative to say this. Thor, this is one of the 6 Infinity Stones, the Space Stone. I see that your father also has an Infinity Gauntlet in his treasure house. Why give it to me? Faced with Qin Xiao's question, Thor scratched his head a little embarrassedly and said, well, father said that every appearance of the 6 Infinity Stones is accompanied by trouble. Now that they appear on Earth continuously, there must be someone behind the scenes. He is old and doesn't want to cause trouble, so I'd better leave it to you. In fact, Odin's original words were that if he took back the cosmic cube and repaired the Rainbow Bridge, he would just pass this trouble to Qin Xiao, that bastard. He couldn't even see his future as the Ancient One Supreme Sorcerer, so it would be best to leave it with him. Thor had modified it a little, but Qin Xiao still felt that Thor was a straightforward boy. Your father was so obvious about passing the buck, and you just said it out? Don't you say something to thank you for educating Loki or something? Okay. Anyway, Qin Xiao didn't care, since he had the gems in his hands. On the other hand, Alexander Pierce of S.H.I.E.L.D., who got the scepter, came forward and took the scepter away directly. Just like in the movie, Alexander Pierce did not keep the scepter with him, but secretly handed it to Baron Sterkel, the leader of Hydra in Eastern Europe. Compared to the United States, it is more convenient to conduct human experiments in Eastern Europe. Moreover, the plan to develop super warriors with the scepter is just a plan. No one can tell how successful it is, and how powerful the warriors will be after success. At present, the most important thing for Alexander Pierce is the Insight Project. Dr. Zola's algorithm is almost complete. If the plan is completed, Hydra will completely emerge from the darkness and rule the world. Chapter 144. First use of Infinity Stones. Asgard, Rainbow Bridge. The once bright and beautiful red Rainbow Bridge is now broken in the middle into an irregular jagged shape, and even the bridge body, which used to be full of brilliance, has now become a dull color. The 2 instigators, one is being held in the dungeon of Asgard, spending his days throwing pinballs out of boredom. The other is sitting on the broken bridge and constantly sighing at Qin Xiao. I should have met with Jane before leaving. We had already made an appointment. I don't know why. As soon as I saw Loki, I forgot about it. All I could think about was bringing Loki back quickly. Thor looked at Qin Xiao's phone, which contained the message that Jean had sent to Qin Xiao. The gist was that Thor couldn't be contacted. If he returned to Asgard without informing me, then tell him that he was dead. It's okay. Follow your heart. Maybe in your heart, Loki is your true love. You two are not related by blood at all. It's not incest. Please, don't look at me like that. I won't discriminate against you. Qin Xiao patted Thor's shoulder to comfort him. Alas. Thor sighed again. I shouldn't have said this to you. Your comfort is like the bite of a poisonous snake, which will only make people more uncomfortable. My father is right. Most of the time, you are a bastard. Thor said helplessly. Huh? When did your father say that I was a bastard? Qin Xiao suddenly reacted and asked. Oh, they are coming. Thor got up quickly and changed the subject. At the end of the Golden Palace of the Rainbow Bridge, Odin, Ancient One and Heimdall were slowly walking towards this side. Let's start. The 3 of them nodded to each other, and Odin suddenly raised the Spear of Eternity. The magic power was amplified by the Spear of Eternity and directly acted on the Rainbow Bridge Temple, which had become half a ruin. The top and fragments of the temple that had fallen halfway slowly floated up into the sky. Then all the energy turned into a golden shadow, which matched the temple below perfectly, and then turned from energy into entity again. The Rainbow Temple instantly restored its original appearance. Ancient One Supreme, the material of the Rainbow Bridge is special, and my magic cannot restore it. Thank you. After doing all this, Odin bowed slightly to Ancient One and said. Ancient One nodded slightly, made a seal with one hand, and the metal on the ornament on his chest slowly opened, and the green time gem slowly floated out. Ancient One held the time gem in one hand, and a faint green halo appeared on his wrist. He held the green halo in one hand, and twisted it in the counterclockwise direction. The time on the Rainbow Bridge immediately reversed, and countless fragments that fell into the endless sea and even rushed into the universe flew back, slowly piecing together the broken Rainbow Bridge into a complete shape. But the color of the bridge was still that rigid color, not as gorgeous as before. So Heimdall took action. He held the cosmic cube in both hands, and the divine power on his body quickly poured in. Soon, a blue light on the cosmic cube shot towards the Rainbow Temple. With the continuous injection of space energy, the Rainbow Temple burst into an amazing light, slowly covering the Rainbow Bridge. The entire bridge body once again exuded the kind of colorful light that was a collection of various colors. With the continuous injection of energy, the core energy of the Rainbow Temple was slowly repaired. Finally, the light of the Rainbow Temple was restrained, and the colorful light on the Rainbow Bridge was also fixed. Heimdall let out a long breath and slowly withdrew his divine power. The energy column emitted by the cosmic cube also slowly stopped. The entire Rainbow Bridge was completely repaired. Qin Xiao was confused. This was something that Gu Yi could handle alone, so why was it divided into 3 steps? The reversal of time is not as simple as you think. The more powerful the object or life, the greater the backlash on the gem user. I was injured last time, and I still need a certain amount of strength to suppress the dark power in my body. Gu Yi explained to Qin Xiao lightly. Qin Xiao then remembered that most of the power of the Ancient One seemed to be used to suppress the dark power in his body. You should try to use the time stone to reverse your body directly, so that you don't have to rely on dark energy to extend your life. Qin Xiao saw that the Ancient One didn't mind Odin's presence at all, and directly told him about the dark power. He also spoke directly to the point. First, that will make her lose her memory and power. Secondly, the moment she reverses, the dark power in her body will immediately backfire and go out of control. Odin glanced at Qin Xiao and then said seriously, in order to resist the threat from the dark dimension over the years, the Supreme Ancient One has been betting his life. Odin should be the one who understands the Ancient One the most. After all, he and the Ancient One are in a similar situation. He also used most of his power to suppress Hela in Hell. The Time Stone is the one with the highest usage restrictions among the Infinity Stones. Unlike the Space Stone, the rules of time are much more stringent than those of space. As the Ancient One explained, he picked up the Cosmic Cube and stuffed it directly into Qin Xiao. Try it. You have the power of the God of Fire now. You should be able to drive the Space Stone. Concentrate your mind. Focus your mind on the Space Stone, and then imagine where you want to go. The initial control of the Space Stone is very simple. With the reminder of Ancient One, Qin Xiao soon saw a portal with a blue-black smoke-like frame in front of him. Opposite was the bathroom of an apartment. The bathtub had a curtain drawn, and a figure was swaying inside. It was obvious that someone was taking a bath. Opposite the toilet was a small shelf with a few clothes, a pistol with a holster, and a shield ID named Phil Coulson. There was also a small yellow wig. Qin Xiao smiled slightly, and a small flame popped out directly at the wig, and then quickly closed the portal. He casually opened a few portals with the cosmic cube. Qin Xiao found that the farther the distance, the more energy the portal consumed. But in general, the energy required to open the space gate is not much. It is only used as energy to drive the cosmic cube. Try this again. Ancient One directly stuffed the time stone into Qin Xiao's hand. There was nothing wrong with trying, so Qin Xiao took the gem directly. This time was different from the cosmic cube. Qin Xiao concentrated his mind 3 times before a green halo appeared on his wrist. Qin Xiao concentrated his mind and fixed his eyes on Ancient One. As his mind moved slightly, before his hand really started to move, he felt a terrifying suction coming from the time stone. Chapter 145 A Birthday Gift. Odin was quick to react and saw that something was wrong. He picked up Thor's hammer and hit Qin Xiao with it. So scary? Qin Xiao stood up and said with lingering fear, "Even in my prime, I wouldn't dare to do that. You're just targeting Ancient One. It's no problem to find an Earthling to try, but you should just forget about us," Odin scolded. Qin Xiao knew that this was Odin's caring and frank words that saved his life. He was not angry at all when he heard it, but bowed slightly to thank Odin. Ancient One chuckled. "In fact, I just pushed you to distract you just now. You haven't even started yet." Qin Xiao. After being hit by Odin with a hammer for an excuse, Qin Xiao had to accept it with a pinch of his nose. He suspected that Odin was venting his anger on his adopted son because he had beaten Loki into a pig's head. Turning his head and ignoring Odin, Qin Xiao asked Ancient One, "If the other party is an ordinary Earthling, is there any problem?" Guyi looked at Qin Xiao. "With your strength, 100 ordinary people are not a big problem. When you learn the special spells and control methods, you will have no problem reversing a city, provided that there are no people like us in this city." Before Qin Xiao's strength reaches a certain level, Guyi still has to rely on the gems and her own strength to deter Dormammu's invasion. Moreover, Guyi often observes the uncertain future. She has her own plans about when to teach Qin Xiao magic. But Qin Xiao now asks to borrow the time gem. Although you are not affected by the timeline, the time gem has a great influence after all. It must not be used indiscriminately. You have to tell me, what do you want to do? Guyi asked a little puzzled. "I just want to give someone a birthday present," Qin Xiao said lightly. London, England. Royal Brompton Hospital. Because Peggy Carter's health has been deteriorating in recent years, the government has specially allocated funds to divide a separate area in the hospital and build a small building inside, which is specially used for Peggy Carter's recuperation. Apart from the royal family, the only ones who could have this treatment were this legendary agent and the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. In fact, compared to these two identities that brought her lifelong honor in Peggy Carter's heart, there is another identity that is the most important. That is Captain America's girlfriend. In fact, during World War II, the combination of Captain America, Peggy Carter and Howard Stark was already a mature superhero organization. Captain America's Howling Commandos, Howard who provided logistics and equipment, and Peggy Carter who provided intelligence formed a perfect iron triangle. It can be said that they destroyed the Hydra headed by the Red Skull together, which led to the defeat of Germany and ended the war ahead of time. This was an extremely glorious period of time, and it was also the past that Peggy Carter recalled the most after she lay on the hospital bed. That date back then was not only the captain's lifelong knot, but also hers. Steve Rogers. I finally waited for you. You are finally back. It has been too long. The captain finally plucked up the courage to come and see Peggy Carter, which made Peggy Carter burst into tears. "Yes, I'm back, Peggy. How can I bear to leave my beautiful girl? I still owe her a dance," the captain said, while letting Peggy Carter hold his hand tightly. Peggy Carter was too excited and breathed quickly for a long time. The captain brought him a bottle of water and he drank a sip before he slowly calmed down. "It's good to be alive. I heard that you're back a long time ago, but I don't know when you will come to see me. I'm really afraid that I can't hold on until you come." Peggy Carter was a little tired and lay down a little, but one hand was still tightly holding the captain's hand. "I'm sorry, Peggy. I should have come earlier. I need some time to adapt. This world is completely different from before," the captain said with some self-blame. "It doesn't matter. It's good to be here. This world, you saved this world. During your absence, we messed up the world. That could have been better. I heard that you and others founded the Avengers. You are still the same as before. You are destined to be a hero, Steve." Peggy Carter's eyes were no different from more than 60 years ago, and they were still full of appreciation. The captain smiled a little embarrassedly. "When you knew me, I was just a malnourished little guy. It was you, Dr. Erskine, Colonel Phillips, who turned me into a hero. No, Steve, heroes are not about muscle strength, but about the heart. When I first met you, you were already a hero. Peggy Carter tremblingly took out a photo from under the pillow, which was exactly what Captain America looked like before he was injected with the super serum. After you left, I thought for a long time about when I fell in love with you. At first I thought it was when you kissed that beautiful secretary. Later I found out when you disappeared. What I miss most is you at this time. Peggy Carter put the photo in Captain America's hand. The captain took the photo and took a look at it and said with a smile, "It's a pity that Dr. Erskine didn't invent the serum for small people. Otherwise I could come back to see you like this. Ha ha ha. Cough, cough." Peggy Carter was amused by Captain America, but she started coughing violently after a few laughs. Captain America quickly went up to support her body and let her lie more comfortably. "I'm fine, Steve. Listen to me. It's great to hear you joking. You're more humorous than before, which means you have good friends around you. Enjoy your life, Steve. Your life should be more exciting." Before coming, I thought about it many times, but I never had the courage to come and see her. After coming, the captain found that he was actually quite lonely in his heart. Not to mention the relationship between the two lovers. It was just rare to have acquaintances from his own age. Let's talk about the past stories together. I didn't dare to talk for too long, fearing that Peggy's body couldn't hold on, so I made an appointment to see her next time. The captain left Peggy Carter's ward with a hint of melancholy. Almost as soon as the captain left the small building, Qin Xiao came out of the small woods in front of the small building. Looking around and making sure that the captain had gone far away, Qin Xiao stepped into the small building. 4 chapters are done. Chapter 146. Sam Wilson. 2012 is still the Independence Day of the United States. But in fact, today is also the birthday of Captain America. For Steve Rogers, in his first half of life, since his parents died, only Bucky remembered his birthday. Later, he met Peggy, Howard and others, but at that time, it was a war and no one had time to think about birthdays. Since waking up from his deep sleep, Captain America has always gone to a quiet place on his birthday, walked around and looked around, recalling his past life, those people and things. It was originally planned to look at the night sky and the base on this birthday, but Stark said that the base should be upgraded again, and Qin Xiao and Natasha said they wanted to go out and walk around. Dr. Banner has been hiding in the laboratory and I don't know what he is doing. Thor ran to find Jane. For a while, the captain, who was used to arranging himself full every day, didn't know what to do for a while after the base was closed. It seems that, since he came back from seeing Peggy, he seems to be more sentimental than before, and he doesn't like the feeling of loneliness. Especially since it was his birthday today, the captain didn't want to stay alone in the empty Stark building. So he ran out in casual clothes, and unexpectedly he walked to his own museum in New York City again. Looking at the photos on the wall and the familiar introductions about himself, everything seemed to have happened not long ago, but it was so far away. Especially the photo of himself and Bucky together. If he hadn't crashed at that time, Bucky would definitely take him out for a drink to celebrate. With a faint self-deprecating smile, the captain was just about to turn around and leave here. "I guess you may be the first person in the world to visit your own museum." A smiling voice came from behind. The captain turned around suddenly, but found that it was a person he didn't know, a black man who looked quite strong. He was looking at him with a smile on his face. "How did you recognize me?" The captain felt that he was a little too nervous and asked with a self-deprecating smile. The glass cover outside the photo is reflective, although it's not very clear. "I'm your loyal fan." The strong black man pointed to the glass cover of the photo with Bucky that the captain had been looking at just now and said, "Hello, Captain. My name is Sam Wilson. I used to be in the 58th Airborne Rescue Force. Now I work at the Veteran Service. By the way, I came to New York today to visit your museum, even though I've been here many times." Sam Wilson smiled and extended his hand to the captain. "Steve Rogers." The captain politely said his name. "You are the only one here who doesn't need to introduce yourself. How is it? After thawing, are you used to this world?" Sam Wilson gave the captain a very natural feeling. Maybe because they were both soldiers before, the two of them naturally walked around the museum together and chatted. Fortunately, the food is much better than before, the clothes are much more beautiful, and there is the internet, which is amazing. I spend several hours every day looking at various things on it, trying not to be eliminated by the times. Sam Wilson introduced some interesting things in recent years to the captain, such as the military, music, and some interesting news. The captain acted as a guide for Sam Wilson, comparing the deeds in the museum with him, and telling him stories from the past. Nice to meet you, Captain. Unfortunately, I have to rush back to Washington tomorrow morning for something. Otherwise, I would definitely have a drink with you. Today is Saturday. By the way, if you come to Washington, remember to contact me. Your experience will definitely be of great help to those veterans who want to reintegrate into society. Definitely. The captain and Sam Wilson got along very well and exchanged contact information. Just after parting, the captain suddenly felt a little lonely. It was because Sam Wilson just said that today was Saturday. Peggy Carter's date with him was also on Saturday. The captain remembered very clearly that when he apologized to Peggy on the plane, the dance appointment might be delayed. Peggy told him, "It's okay, next Saturday, the Zygomatic Bird Club." If he had survived and went to that club, he didn't know what his life would be like now, whether he would still be alive, and whether his name would be hung on the wall of the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. As he was thinking, someone suddenly called him. Sir, I'm having a terrible day today. My girlfriend and I made an appointment to go to a club to dance, but I can't go because of something. I have to leave New York right away, but I can't get through to her on the phone. Can you help me tell her? Otherwise, she will definitely leave me. Please, sir. Club. Dancing. Saturday. Am I in trouble today? The captain muttered a few words with his head down, and then looked up at the little boy who looked only about 20 years old and said, "I'm sorry, your excuse is too bad. I know there are many scammers out there now, but your excuse is really too bad. There is no club." The captain was interrupted by the boy before he finished speaking. "Sir, I really didn't lie to you. There is really such a club. It's at 177A Bleecker Street, the Zygomatic Bird Club. You must believe me, sir." The little boy handed the captain a business card of the club while speaking. The word Zygomatic Bird Club struck the captain's heart like lightning. Zygomatic Bird Club? The captain looked at the business card with only an address and the name of the club, turned it over, and saw a line of words on the back. "The Chestnut Bird Club is here to help you find your lost time." When he suddenly looked up, there was no trace of the little boy in front of him. The captain was stunned on the street for a moment. This was so sudden that the captain realized that something must be wrong. He took out his mobile phone and searched the address. It showed that this was an old-fashioned antique furniture store. The captain wanted to throw away the business card at the first time, but the words on it seemed to have some kind of magic, attracting the captain's eyes. "Okay, let's go and take a look. If it's a scam, it's just like doing a good thing for myself on my birthday today." With this idea in mind, the captain went directly to the location of the New York Temple. This building looks very consistent with the antique furniture store found on the mobile phone, that is, the retro style. I looked inside and saw that the lights were on, but I couldn't see anything clearly from the outside. The captain calmed down and reached out to push open the door. Chapter 147. A dance 67 years late. The moment the door was pushed open, a clamor overwhelmed the captain's senses. The old-fashioned bar, the old-fashioned wooden table, and the chairs were filled with people wearing the uniforms of the Allied forces in World War II, all with a beaming look on their faces. They held various kinds of alcohol in their hands and raised them high to clink glasses with each other, singing loudly with their tuneless voices following the music. The band on the stage was playing a very cheerful song, Star Spangled Man. The captain was very familiar with this song. When he had just become Captain America, he had danced to this song with a group of long-legged girls on the stage countless times. It was to raise funds for the soldiers fighting on the front line. What made the captain feel more familiar than the song was the temperament of these soldiers, their clothes, and everything around them, as if they had returned to more than 60 years ago. The entire club of hundreds of square meters, under the cover of dim lights, had a layer of dreamy colors for no reason. So much so that the captain did not notice that the moment he entered the door, the blue-black color around him kept surging, and it did not look like a solid door frame at all. As soon as he entered, the door behind him disappeared and was replaced by an ordinary wooden door, which was in line with the age of the club. Unfortunately, the captain didn't notice these and walked straight to the bar with a little confusion. The waiter who was wiping the cup with his head down looked up and saw the captain. His face lit up. "Hey, look who's here. Captain Rogers, our hero. Congratulations on killing the leader of Hydra, John Schmidt. Hydra is completely finished. I don't think the war will last for a few days." After saying this, the captain seemed even more confused. Now he has completely lost the ability to distinguish and just subconsciously said to the waiter, "I'm here to find a girl. She should be here alone. She should be waiting for someone." The waiter just thought for a moment and pointed to the corner opposite near the stage and said, "There is only one single girl tonight. I was wondering how such a pretty girl could come alone. It turns out she is waiting for you, the captain. This is really enviable." The captain looked in the direction of the waiter's finger, only to see the back of a woman wearing a fitted military uniform and short hair. It was a little hard to see clearly in the dim light, but the figure, dress, and hair were all the woman that made him dream. "Peggy." The captain muttered the name to himself. He didn't hear the waiter excitedly shouting behind him that he would buy him a drink later. At the other end of the stage, in a corner, Qin Xiao, Tony, Banner and even Rhodes sat in a circle. Unlike usual times, they were all wearing military uniforms from World War II. "Damn, that waiter is too dramatic. Where did you find him, Rhodes?" Tony said to Rhodes in a low voice. Rhodes glanced at the waiter who was still waving his arms excitedly at the captain's back. "That's the bartender in our Air Force club. Those pilots don't know how to make drinks. Tony, that's what a waiter should be like. I saw the hero on the battlefield, and I think he's pretty good." The two were arguing in a low voice. Qin Xiao next to them suddenly said, "Stop talking. The captain is going to change the music, clear the dance floor, and notify Natasha that the heroine is about to appear." Qin Xiao was preparing to start the next scene. The captain walked towards the girl in the corner with an expectant look on his face. The short distance of more than 10 meters, but the captain felt that the walk was extremely long. After finally walking behind the girl, the fearless Captain America was now timid like a primary school student who was afraid to see the teacher after doing something wrong. He hesitated behind her for a long time and didn't dare to take that step. "Rod, find someone to help him." Tony couldn't bear it anymore and said to Rod. Rod quickly said a few words into the headset. "I saw two young men standing up at the table behind the captain, one of them staggering and drunk, and the other followed closely behind. When passing behind the captain, the staggering young man lost his balance and bumped into the captain's back. The captain's mind was focused on the back in front of him, so he didn't care about what was behind him, and he staggered. Sorry, my friend is drunk." A young man rushed forward and said to Captain America. The captain took a look at the staggering drunkard and waved his hand to indicate that it was okay. "Go take your friend home." The young man thanked him repeatedly and then helped his companion up. As the two walked, the young man who played the drunkard clenched his fists excitedly. "I just knocked down Captain America. I can brag about this for the rest of my life. I'm going to go back and tell my cousin." Let's not talk about the two young men. Let's look at the captain again. He patted his clothes helplessly, stood up suddenly, and met a pair of bright eyes. In just a moment, the captain was deeply attracted by these eyes. "Peggy!" The captain shouted in disbelief. "Peggy? I didn't expect our Captain Rogers to flirt with girls like this. My name is Vanessa, but if our Captain America likes me, I can also be Peggy," the girl said softly to the captain with a charming smile. The captain then realized that this was just a girl who looked 70% similar to Peggy. A huge sense of loss surged in his heart. He actually thought that he had traveled through time and space and returned to that era. It was really. Now it seems that it was just a prank by someone, no matter what it was. The captain was not in the mood to play now, and he didn't want to pursue it. He just wanted to leave this place and find a quiet corner to stay alone for a while. Just as he was about to leave, the lights in the venue suddenly dimmed. The band on the stage also stopped playing suddenly. The cheerful songs and noisy voices suddenly stopped. Instead, there was a dead silence. But it only lasted for less than 2 seconds. Suddenly, a saxophone sound came over, playing a very lyrical and slow music. Then, the lights on the ceiling flashed, and a spotlight hit the middle of the club. At some point, the tables and chairs in the middle had been removed. There was only one person under the spotlight, wearing a red evening gown that stood out against the darker colors around it. The captain had short curly hair and a very familiar face and eyes. Who else could it be but Peggy Carter? I've been waiting for this dance for 67 years, so what are you waiting for, my little boy? Chapter 148. This is my choice. Peggy Carter's voice sounded faintly, and at this moment, the captain abandoned all his worries. No matter if it was an illusion or the enemy's conspiracy, nothing was as important as the dance in front of him. Heh. The captain laughed softly with tears in his eyes. I remember I seemed to tell you that I can't dance. I seemed to tell you that I would teach you. It's okay. Cap. Another spotlight lit up above the captain's head, and as the two approached, the two lights slowly converged together. Just like Captain America and Peggy Carter, the two slowly hugged each other, and nothing could separate them from then on. The song ended. After a long time, the two people who kissed deeply slowly separated. Ka-ka-ka. The sound of the spotlight turning on continued to sound. Suddenly, the whole club was as bright as day. A group of people in military uniforms cheered and rushed towards the two people. The captain then noticed that the group of people in front, Qin Xiao, Tony, Banner, were all familiar to him, and some were widows who had been stationed in Sky City for a long time. Those people just now had gone to who knows where. What on earth happened? The captain's hand was still tightly around Peggy Carter's waist. He was extremely sure that the Peggy in front of him was real. Whether it was her appearance, temperament or the smell on her body, it was the Peggy Carter he had been thinking about, the Peggy Carter of the past. But Qin Xiao and Tony in front of him. What do you want to know? Today is your birthday, Captain. Before cutting the birthday cake, there is a video that will explain to you what happened. Qin Xiao stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers. Suddenly, a 3D projection video appeared on the stage. In the video, it was Peggy Carter lying on the hospital bed. Let's start. It's okay. Qin Xiao's voice appeared first, and then Peggy Carter nodded in the direction of the camera. She began to tell the story slowly. I never believed that I could see you again in my lifetime, Steve. Thank you so much for coming to see me today and putting a perfect end to my life. The doctor told me that I have to lie in this bed every day and receive care from a medical team at any time to barely survive another 4 or 5 years. This is a torment for me. I often think that instead of wasting resources on useless old ladies like me, it is better to let them go out to help those in need. But I always thought that you would come back one day, and today I finally waited for it. I wanted to return to my manor and wait for God's call, but I didn't expect that your friend would come as soon as you left today. He told me that he could let me choose my life again and let my body return to 1945. I thought he was a liar, but he turned a bitten apple core into a whole apple in front of me. Steve, I thought about it for a long time. Instead of waiting for death, it is better to start another life, yours and mine. Cough cough cough. Qin Xiao appeared in the picture and quickly poured a glass of water for Peggy Carter. After a long time of relaxation, Peggy in the picture slowly spoke again. Steve, do you remember what you said to me on the plane? I begged you not to do this. You said this is your choice. Then next, I want to say, this is my choice. Happy birthday Steve, and blessings to you, and you, 26-year-old Peggy Carter. Bless you. This video was recorded by Peggy Carter before Qin Xiao reversed her time. There are 2 videos in total, and one is for Peggy Carter alone, explaining to her what happened. The time gem not only reversed Peggy's aging body, but also everything about herself, including her own memories. Even with the video and a lot of information, it took Peggy Carter more than a week to adapt to it all. Qin Xiao once thought that for the new Peggy Carter, all this was like Captain America who had suddenly passed more than 60 years after sleeping. He was not sure whether Peggy was adapted to all this and whether she was willing to give up her own era and everything familiar for Captain America. But the old Peggy told Qin Xiao that at that time, she could give up everything for Steve. Qin Xiao then made up his mind to do all this. After watching the video and understanding everything, Captain America first said to Peggy Carter, "Do you think it's worth it to chase this date for 67 years? Peggy Carter smiled. "This is my choice, isn't it?" Under the gaze of everyone, the two people who figured out everything kissed each other slowly again. Bang. Tony picked up a bottle of champagne and opened the lid. "I declare that the birthday party officially begins." After saying that, he directly picked up the champagne and sprayed it at the captain and Peggy Carter. The door opened, and Rhodes had just taken them out to avoid the disclosure of Peggy Carter's affairs. The Air Force boys who played the role of World War II soldiers at the beginning rushed in, officially kicking off this carnival. The party lasted until late at night, and Rhodes took these soldiers from a certain Air Force base to rest. Their temporary residence had been arranged here long ago. You know, Rhodes came to help under the banner of bringing people to visit the skybase, and he had to give the military a necessary report on the establishment of the US military skybase. Yes, this is the skybase. Tony did transform the base, but he deliberately cleared everyone out in order to give the captain an unexpected surprise. In order to make the captain's mood fluctuate more violently, he also specially made an electronic biological human skin mask and found a girl with a body shape similar to Peggy from the Widows, which deceived the captain at the beginning. For this party, Yelena even ran back to join in the fun. Qin Xiao, whose woman was occupied by his sister-in-law at night, was sitting on the plane landing area outside the skybase. A man was holding a bottle of beer and chatting with Tony. "Wakanda is almost busy. Your vibranium armor has hope this time. I mentioned it to him once when we started to talk about cooperation, and he didn't refuse." Qin Xiao bumped Tony with his elbow. "You know, he has coveted vibranium for a long time." But this time Tony did not show the excitement that Qin Xiao expected, but said to Qin Xiao with a serious face, "Qin, if next time, I mean if, there is a more powerful cosmic civilization to invade the Earth, what should we do? Our world is not safe, Qin. Let's unite and fight together." The captain's voice sounded behind the two. "Captain? For God's sake, why are you out now?" Tony glanced at his watch. "It's only been more than 2 hours, and I put 2 full boxes of small umbrellas in your bedroom." Qin Xiao looked at Tony in surprise, then turned to ask the captain, "Yeah, why did you come out so early?" "I put a full box too." Chapter 149 Lemuria. The captain's head was full of black lines. He originally came out to say thank you to these two people with a grateful mood. Why did he have the urge to hit them hard in the face with his shield as soon as they opened their mouths? He took a deep breath and filtered their words. "Thank you. Thank you for everything you have done for me." The captain sat next to the two and said seriously, "For God's sake, Captain, you should be more thoughtful. At least come over and give each of us a hug or something. You know, for these World War II decorations and clothes, I emptied half of the warehouse of props in my friend's film and television company." Qin Xiao did not embarrass the captain this time, but smiled and said, "I think you should relax for a while next, take Peggy around, and take a good look at this world. If you need, I can arrange for you to travel to Asgard for a while. We can go anywhere together, but let's talk about it after a while." During this time, Peggy and Natasha sorted out intelligence together. Guess what they found? The traces of Hydra. Facing this enemy who was almost his destiny, the captain was unusually serious. "Listen to me, Captain. You two can go around the world. I will take care of Hydra. We are the Avengers. We have defeated the alien invaders. Hydra. Now it is just a fly to us. Definitely not a real enemy." "That's right, Captain. Our enemies are there," Tony said, pointing to the stars in the sky. Compared with the captain, Tony has more respect for Peggy Carter, the aunt-level figure who founded S.H.I.E.L.D. with his father. Stark Industries has just purchased a huge cruise ship to travel around the world on the sea, a high-end and comfortable travel route. Tony directly left a top-level luxury package for the two of them. Captain America finally put down his work temporarily under the persuasion of Qin Xiao and Tony, and chose to travel around the world with Peggy. In fact, the key is that the intelligence only found the clues of Hydra, and there is nothing real at all. Otherwise the captain would have to go directly to disintegrate Hydra before he would give up. After sending the captain and Peggy away, Qin Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. In his heart, everything else can be changed, except for this Hydra, which he has left there for a long time. It is for the appearance of Scarlet Witch, so that no accidents will happen at the last minute. Wakanda, which proved its strength to the world through the invasion of the Chitauri, has been the focus of world attention recently. Wakanda, which originally had no foreign institutions in its territory, has received requests from almost all powerful countries in the world to open embassies in Wakanda and send scientific visiting groups. And the number of tourists from all over the world who come to Wakanda to visit has increased countless times out of thin air. Recently, the old king has been so busy that his legs can't touch the ground. Apart from other things, facing so many tourists, eating, drinking, defecating, urinating, and sleeping are all huge problems. Not to mention Wakanda's external transportation, airport construction, airlines from all over the world settling in, etc. Wakanda is not afraid of war, but these sudden extra administrative tasks are a huge challenge for an ancient country that has always existed in the form of a tribe, even if their technology has surpassed the entire human civilization for many years. If I had known this, I should have been fully prepared to face the world. The old king, who had not had breakfast with his son for a long time, finally found some time today and complained while eating. Black Panther smiled slightly. For him, who was still young, being able to open up Wakanda to the world was his dream. But opportunities are fleeting, aren't they? While the whole world owes us a favor, we should consolidate our relations with some big countries and give all parties some technological benefits appropriately so that we can balance the forces of all parties, right? Chala, you have to remember that these are just necessary political means. The real guarantee is the Avengers, or that guy Qin Xiao. Behind him is a terrifying force that can fight the whole world. So, this ally is what you need to pay the most attention to in the future. You can rely on each other. Qin Xiao and the others will come over in a few days. You should prepare yourself. I want you to join the Avengers. Black Panther was ecstatic. Compared to being a king who honestly handles various affairs, he still prefers to be a free warrior. But he didn't dare to express it on his face, but asked lightly, "What about domestic affairs? Didn't you ask me to learn how to deal with these affairs? It's different now, kid. Now we are open to the world. We need all kinds of talents, administratively. While I'm still healthy, I will send some reliable children to learn some management experience to ensure that there are professional and sincere people to help you manage everything in the future. And you only need to do two things: maintain your identity as an Avenger and keep an eye on our vibranium, and everything will be fine." Wakanda began to take time to contact Qin Xiao. Qin Xiao never thought that he would still meet his mortal enemy after sending Captain America on a trip, riding on a super tanker, crossing the entire Atlantic Ocean, and stopping in Europe for a few days. The captain and Peggy Carter revisited their battlefields and the places they had stayed together decades ago. Then the cruise ship headed south, and after experiencing some African customs, it arrived in the Indian Ocean. On the deck at the corner of a restaurant on the ship, two white men were hiding here smoking. "We have found the target, right in the middle of the Indian Ocean. This ship happens to have an emergency escape yacht for the rich guys who enjoy luxury suites. We can use that to approach them directly, and we can also disguise ourselves as tourists in distress." The two were discussing something very exciting but absolutely shady, and they didn't notice that Captain America was standing quietly behind the corner listening to their conversation. It's just that their voices were getting lower and lower. The captain only heard something like SHIELD, Lemuria, hijacking, etc. But these were enough to know what they wanted to do. In the middle of the Indian Ocean, a ship marked with the words Lemuria and the SHIELD logo was slowly sailing here. This is a mobile satellite launched ship, one of the ships that Hydra used to launch the InSight satellite for their InSight project. 4 chapters are finished. Chapter 150 Hydra appears. At around 3 o'clock in the morning, a luxury cruise ship was moving slowly from west to east in the Indian Ocean. The nightlife of this holiday cruise ship is quite rich, with nightclubs, bars, casinos, and KTVs. However, no matter how rich the nightlife is, most tourists have already stopped and fallen asleep at this point. In the duty room of the bridge, a group of terrorists of unknown origin occupied the place. Several staff members on duty have been tied together and placed on the ground, except for the first mate on this ship. He was being pointed at the head by one of the terrorists with a pistol. Relax, we don't have too many ideas about this ship. As long as you don't make some actions that cause us to misunderstand, I guarantee that you can survive and get off the ship safely. Do you understand? The terrorist threatened the first mate and opened several movable valves under the cabin. There were 2 large double-decker yachts docked here, which were used as lifeboats and rented out to some tourists who wanted to go out alone for a while. After confirming that the valve below was open, the terrorist with a gun knocked out the first mate with a palm and walked towards the bottom of the cabin with his men. Outside a window of the bridge, the captain, who had changed into a uniform, took a shield coated with special light-absorbing materials and quietly disappeared into the darkness. He sent a message to Peggy, asking her to wake up the unlucky first mate later. The captain took the lead among these terrorists and hid in the engine room of the lifeboat under the cabin. Ever since the news of Hydra came out, the captain has been like a stone blocking his heart, and he can't be happy until he gets rid of it. The target of these terrorists is the ship of S.H.I.E.L.D. He really wants to see what their purpose is, whether they are Hydra people or not. This is why the captain has not taken action yet. The yacht sailed on the sea for more than 2 hours. When it was almost dawn, the captain felt that the engine speed was slowly slowing down. Although the sound of the engine slowed down, the noisy roar of the machine still made it difficult for the captain to hear what was happening outside. He didn't dare to go out easily. After more than 10 minutes, there was no movement outside, so the captain opened the door and walked out. The yacht was empty. Another yacht was parked more than 10 meters away. There was no one inside. After looking around the cabin, the inflatable life raft was gone. Right in front of the yacht, about 100 meters away, a large cruise ship was quietly parked on the sea. Gunshots could be heard from there. The captain dived into the sea without hesitation. When he swam to the edge, he found that the Lemuria was printed on the hull, and there was also the logo of S.H.I.E.L.D. It seemed that this was the target they were talking about, but who was so brave that he dared to hijack S.H.I.E.L.D. ship? With doubts, the captain quietly lurked from a deck. There were several terrorists patrolling back and forth with rifles outside. The gunshots could no longer be heard. It seemed that they should have hijacked the ship. I wonder if all the S.H.I.E.L.D. people had been killed. The other party might have hostages. The captain was alone and did not dare to act rashly. Instead, he quietly avoided the patrolling terrorists and walked into the cabin. The bridge has been occupied by terrorists, but for some reason, they are not sailing yet. The most important thing now is to find out where the hostages are. The captain took out a pair of glasses from the side pocket of his arm and put them on. He clicked twice on the legs of the glasses. The scanning system of the glasses started, and the thermal image inside was directly displayed on the glasses through the cabin. It was clear at a glance how many people were in each room. In a room that seemed to be a kitchen behind the restaurant, the captain could clearly see that there were more than 20 people sitting in a circle on the ground, and there were 4 people walking back and forth next to them. Needless to say, this should be where the hostages were held. Sighing that Stark's equipment was really useful, the captain took out a small button-like thing and ejected it directly outside the small room where the hostages were held. I'm going to go to the bathroom. After eavesdropping on the nonsense for a few minutes, a terrorist was finally ready to come out. Unfortunately, he was hit by a S.H.I.E.L.D. just after closing the door and coming out. There were still 3 people inside. As long as one more person came out, the captain would be sure to eliminate the 2 terrorists without hurting the hostages. After waiting quietly for a few minutes, the people outside had not come back yet, and they could not sit still anymore. You, go out and see why Virginia hasn't come back yet. This bastard always has a lot of things to do every time he works. Another person came out and was knocked down by the captain. Now there were only 2 people left inside, and the captain pushed the door open without hesitation. What are you doing? The terrorist at the door just opened his mouth and suddenly found something wrong. He wanted to raise the gun in his hand, but was held down on the head and hit against the wall. Across the long operating table in the kitchen, the other terrorist inside had not reacted yet, and the captain threw a shield over. Bang! The terrorist inside fell down with a sound. Captain Rogers, why are you here? The one who spoke was a bold hostage. The captain knew him. He was one of the senior agents of SHIELD, Agent Sitwell. It's indeed a shield ship. These guys were on a cruise ship planning to hijack a ship. I just happened to hear their plan, so I followed them. After a brief explanation, the captain untied the ropes of the people tied up one by one and went out to get the weapons of the two people who had just been knocked unconscious. Come on, some of you who are good at fighting, take your weapons and follow me and knock down a few more patrols. Take more weapons. You keep yourself safe, and I'll go clean up the terrorists on the ship. Sitwell was obviously the leader here. He assigned some tasks. Two people followed the captain with rifles, and the rest found a safer place to hide first. Everyone was sent out, but Sitwell and another agent stayed here. The insight plan cannot be lost. The two of us take our weapons and go to the satellite launch bay first, Sitwell said while checking the weapons in his hand. The other agent nodded and suddenly smiled. This group of people is so unlucky. They hijacked the shield ship and met Captain America. But even without Captain America, they are dead. At the same time, they offended SHIELD and Hydra. Hey. He was interrupted by Agent Sitwell in the middle of his words. Be careful, Captain America is still on the ship. We can't make any mistakes now, understand? On the other side, Captain America, who was leading two people to attack the bridge, changed his face. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.